good afternoon and happy third day of spring. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice or are watching me on any social media streams, YouTube or Facebook, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I am your host on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 1 to 4 p.m. I've got a lot to talk to you about today. We're going to have a hot show today. I'm just letting you know because, as usual, Mother, we line up the kinds of folks that we know we need to talk to. We're looking at the issues that are happening in our community right now. And one of the people that we're going to interview today is the shooting victim, Antonio Walker Jr., his mother, his grandfather, and I believe an uncle are going to be on the show today to talk about what that death has been like for them, because we've been reporting on violence in the city, and we've been, watching all the things that have been going on in the media, and we've been talking about it, in little corners ad hoc like. But I really want to start putting faces and names and stories behind these victims. It's not just 100 and something victims that have been shot in this city. These are real live people who have folks that love them, people who lost, because they're gone, a whole generation of them will no longer be here. And so today that's going to happen. That's one good thing. But before I get started, let me just say this. Thank you. Michael Court got on here on Thursday so I could prepare for a funeral Friday and Saturday, and he knocked it out the park. People were texting me. They loved him. They said that he was like a male version of me, and I love it because the brother is unapologetic and strong, and he didn't have to do this. And so when I am not able to do my show, it is important to me that someone takes my place that can, reach the people the way I have been reaching. Because I'm serious about this thing, right? All the WURD hosts are serious about this thing, but I go a little extra with my little crazy self. And so Michael being in my place was amazing. I did thank him properly, but I'm thanking him publicly now for really knocking it out the park. Thank you, Malcolm White. Good afternoon, sir. How are you? And then I wanted to talk to you all about, Leah Dawes' funeral. So check it out. I came on here 3 weeks ago to talk about my friend 2 weeks ago who suddenly passed away. I had seen her on February 27th when we were in a store together. I was highlighting a black store, a black-owned business like I always do, and she showed up, and then a week later she was gone. She had a pulmonary embolism, a blood clot in her lung from not being able to breathe that started in her legs. And I'm sharing this part of it with you because I want you all to take very good care of yourselves. Leah made a doctor's appointment and did not make it to that doctor's appointment because she passed away before her appointment came. It was the hardest 3 days of my life last week. Friday, earlier last week, her sister sent me a text and asked if I could officiate her funeral. Now, I'm not a pastor. I've never officiated a funeral before, but knowing Leah the way that she was and how she lived in life, I decided to take it on. So I officiated her funeral, and at her gravesite became one of her pallbearers and helped to do her last rites at the cemetery. So I am slowly coming back to normal. I want to thank all the people that stepped in the gap. Many thought that I probably should not have been working in the last couple of weeks, but working was the thing that kept me going leading up to her funeral. It was hard. It was so hard. And so I thanked a lot of people publicly. But, the PICO, Leah was an employee at PICO Energy. And the CEO of the company showed up. All her folks showed up. I had never seen hundreds of people came through. I mean, COVID or no COVID, they had their masks on. There was a public viewing for her, and they showed up en masse. When I saw the CEO of PICO standing in that funeral home talking about how Leah impacted him and so many others, it just let you know that she left a legacy that is not to be trifled with. I'm going to miss my friend, but every single day that I move, every single day that I get up, every single day that I don't feel like getting on my bicycle, every single day that I don't feel like doing the things that I want to do, I'm going to remember that Leah made her dash count. And so we're moving forward. Keep praying for me. The grieving process has not just suddenly stopped. I am still there. I am just slowly trying to find my breath it's just one day at a time, right? One day at a time. And so when you have people that you love and care about, please tell them that you love them. Don't stay around and be mad about simple things. It's just not worth it. I told Leah every time I saw her, spoke to her, that I loved her. She would always shush me away. But I found out in the funeral home, all her friends from Pico was like, yeah, we all knew about you. We loved you. Leah talked about you all the time. And so that was good. It is, we're here. You know, it's not been an easy journey, right? But since spring started on Saturday, right after her funeral, yesterday I went back into walking. We did 8 miles on the trails yesterday, climbing up mountains, going around trees. And this morning I got back on my bicycle outdoors. And I've got to tell you, the conditioning that we lose in the wintertime, people say, oh, it's the same conditioning when you're in the gym or you're at home. Not true. I rode my bicycle on a trainer inside my house the entire winter. And when I got on my bicycle this morning outdoors, it wore me out. My legs are on fire, right? But I'm telling you all of this to say, if you can go out, wear your masks, breathe the fresh air, climb the hills, talk to people. If you're fully vaccinated, continue to wear your masks anyway. Continue to social distance. Continue to wear your, wash your hands properly. But it was the thing that kept me going this entire time. So we're back. Spring is here. I am going to do what I can to support those that I need to. Let me see. And so, you know, we'll figure out, you know, where do we go from here. So call in if you want to talk to Mova, because I have a full lineup today, 215-634-8065. And I think I'm having a hot flash because, ooh, inside out, Lord. Anyway, so let me get going with, we have so many things coming up for you guys, and I don't even know where to start. But let me start with here, the Black Doctors COVID-19. This week, the Vaxathon second shot only is Monday today, March 22nd, 2021, and tomorrow, March 23rd, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So all those people that got their first shots at that vaccination, the Vaxathon that they had, the 24-hour clinic, your second shot is today and tomorrow. So make preparations. They're doing 12 hours today, 12 hours tomorrow. Please go out and make sure that you get your second shot. It's Moderna only. There will be COVID testing today, and that just ended. I keep missing it, y'all, because by the time I come on the air, it's over. But there was COVID testing at the SEPTA Suburban Station at 16th North 16th Street and JFK Boulevard from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So go on Black Doctors COVID Consortium.com and look up when they're having their testing and vaccinations each week, right? I'll give you what I have. For the vaccinations that they're giving out this week, not the vaccinations, the first vaccines, that's Thursday, March 25th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., Friday, March 26th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And both of those days is at the Leah Cora Center. So Thursday, March 25th, they're there from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. They're giving out the Moderna and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And on Friday, March 26th, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., again at the Leah Cora Center, the Moderna and Johnson & Johnson vaccine. In case you did not hear this also, the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium has also started a vaccine at home. So they have a mobile van that they take to people's homes to give them their vaccinations. I'm telling you, they're trendsetters. They're blazing trails across the city. And so I'm so super proud of them. It's hard to reach Dr. Ayla anymore, but I understand that this is the work that she's doing, and it just makes me so, so happy. Mova said, good afternoon, Queen Mova. Move to South Florida. Summer 12 months a year. Every day is Saturday. Oh, I love y'all. And Sean says, so excited to be back on the trails. Yeah, Sean walks with me. Sean Morin walks with me every Sunday. And I held their hands yesterday and I said, listen, this is our first day back for the spring. We'll only do 5 miles. They looked at me. We made it 2 miles and then I called an audible. Like I take all these different trails and we climb up and we're rolling on the trees and going up the sides of hills. But it's not only great exercise, it is a bonding experience for us. And so we really enjoy what we're doing out there. All right, Brother Joe, at Germantown, how are you, sir?
I'm doing okay, Sister Andrea. I'm going to say first, say hello to you and Brother Mike holding it down on the board. And welcome back, Sister Andrea. And we missed you last week. Michael Core did a wonderful job filling in for you. And my heartfelt condolences to the loss of your friend, Sister Andrea, because I can relate to that because I lost a good friend of mine too that passed away the other week. So my heart simply goes out to you and into your friend's family. May God bless her and give her peace and hold the family up during this difficult time, Sister Andrea.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. And my condolences for the loss of your friend, too.
Thank you, Sister Andrea. Yeah. And I just want to also to give a shout-out to Brother Maurice from North Philadelphia, not from Southwest Philadelphia. I love that brother,
yes.
Brother Maurice from North Philadelphia, because when Brother Michael filled in for you last week, Maurice called in and he gave a heartwarming testimony about Miss Emma Chappelle. May Allah be pleased with her as well. You know, and Maurice let everybody know how he had, how long he had known Miss Chappelle. He had known her for like 40 years. Like more correct, correct me if I'm wrong. I said it's a long time. So I didn't know Miss Chappelle that well, but I did know her. I mean, she knew of me. She knew me as a familiar face because when she first opened United Bank, Sister Andrea, back in '92, I was down there for the ceremony with Reverend Jackson was here and everything. I got a chance to kind of know her because her and my aunt was pretty good friends, so I kind of knew her. But like I said, she knew of me, and I used to speak to her all the time. Whenever she was stopping the branch, I would speak to her and everything. And I even shared the stock in United Bank when they first opened, which I still have now. And I just want to appreciate Brother Maurice for speaking so highly of Miss Chappelle, who I had a lot of respect for. I used to call her sometimes when she did the show with Joanne Bell and Miss Rita on the Black Women's Leadership Council. And she was a pioneer woman, and Maurice did such a beautiful tribute to her and everything about what she did and what she meant to the Black community. And in closing, I appreciate Brother Maurice's comments also because I know whenever Brother Maurice from North Philly, I always talk about the importance of Black people's economics, which I definitely put a high premium on because we as Black people, we definitely, if we want to live a quality of life, Sister Andrea, for us, for our families, our children, grandchildren, future generations, we have got to have generational wealth, and I appreciate Brother Maurice always hopping on our economics and stuff because that's so important because I remember years ago on the weekend, a brother named Norm Dine, who was a good friend of Michael Kors, he used to host a show on the weekends. And Norm, he has an account at United Bank as well. And Norm used to always say the same thing, the importance of stressing for Black economic power. So I just want to say, lastly, I appreciate Maurice for doing that, and I hope he continues to do that, calling and stress for our people and hold our Black politicians accountable in the city, state, and federal level to make sure that they do their part to make sure that Black people can get lifted out of poverty and we can get our economic power, because economic power equals, as you know, Sister Andrea, political power. So we can get our economic power together. We can start making these politicians do what they're supposed to do, but it's just got to start with the economic level. And I just thank Sister Andrea for letting me express myself. And once again,
welcome, my brother.
Glad you're back.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I met Emma Chappelle. Thank you, Brother Joe. I met Emma Chappelle through Joanne Bell, through the Black Women's Leadership Council, and got to know her very well. They certainly honored her life and her living, and she was a pioneer in more ways than 10. So I am not going to gloss over Emma Chappelle. I am going to find some time in my show this week to talk about who she was, what she has done, and what she has accomplished in this city and beyond. We've got to give the roses, and I'm sure she got hers while she was alive because I was there when I saw her getting some of them. And so for for Women's History Month, she definitely is one of our stars. And so rest well, my sister, rest well. I have a couple more calls, and I have a client coming in, a guest coming in. Let me see what Michael is saying. Okay, good. All right, so Anne, quickly, my love, how are you?
I'm great. And you couldn't have picked a better person than Michael Kors to sit in for you.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
And my condolences go out to people who have loved ones that they care about, dead or alive.
Yes.
And I just want to say to those who criticize the Black doctors, I want you to know I went there today, and they opened up at 10 minutes to 8. 8 o'clock, we were in our seats, had our cars out. 8 o'clock, 5 minutes after 8, all of us had our shots. We went over to the other side to sit there to wait for 15 to 20 minutes like they asked you to. And by 8:30, I was finished and out. So all
Thank you, Miss
Maurice
Ann.
and all of those
Thank
young
you.
people say, all you haters, and I hope you can let us know where we can still contribute something, you know, to help them along. Because they
Yes,
have been
ma'am.
on another task of going,
All right.
you know, the people home that can't get out. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you, my sister. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure talking to you. George, you've got the next 3 minutes before I got to go to break. How are you, sir? George?
George.
George was who I saw here. George Center City. Is he around?
Maurice?
This is Maurice? Okay.
Yeah, get it right.
George...
You keep getting us mixed up all the time. I mean, we buddies and stuff, but come on.
Well, listen, he put George. I'm only following what Michael told me. I'm sorry.
I'm just messing with you. I don't mind being called George sometimes.
What's up, darling?
Look, you know me. I don't believe in being nice.
Yes, sir.
You know, I just get to the facts, but I'm not going to be mean right now. But you know what? I'm getting a little sick of hearing this Yellow Lives Matter now, sir.
Okay.
I want to tell you why.
Okay, good. Okay.
I have a good reason. I love my Asian brothers. I frequent their stores. I help them. I do security for them. But when this thing happened, a lady in the Korean store across the street from me said, Maurice, called my name twice. Maurice. Shame what happened in Georgia. And I told her, I said, yeah, now you know what it feels like to be black. And she gave me that look. Why you say that? Why you be mean to me? I'm not trying to be mean to you. I say when you read in the paper about an unarmed black man getting killed or children being handcuffed, laid on the ground, what's the first thing come to your mind? Oh, they must have did something wrong. Did those people in Georgia do something wrong? And did you hear the sheriff talking about the white guy had a bad day?
Oh, I know. I was so irritated, Maurice. Even in my grief, I had to go on social media and talk about that. And so I'm going to have someone on at 3:20 today to talk about this because
look,
there is.
Let me get to part two. Because
yeah, go ahead. All right, quickly.
All right, part
go ahead.
two. Over the weekend, they've been talking about the pastors talking about they got this $100 million plan. See, this went over everybody's head. I got super hearing. I hear everything. First thing I want to know, where they getting $100 million from? Second of all, where were they at 2 Thanksgivings ago when the murder rate was crazy before COVID? Now all of a sudden they got a great idea. Where were they at doing all these 500 murders? Where were the black clergy at? Nowhere to be found. If they want to help with this murder rate and help black businesses come to, they got to talk to the young people. You can't keep talking to each other and think you're finding an answer. You got to understand what these young people are going through. You can't keep avoiding that. Father knows best. You know more than them. You don't. I'm in the streets with them all the time. I talk to them, and what they don't have is hope. They don't have dreams. They have never seen a black-owned business. That's what we need to put back in the neighborhood. And I'm trying to wake them up, but they're too busy with their collection plate. That's all I got to say to them.
Thank you, my brother. Love you. Good to hear your voice. Talk to you soon. All right. And he hung up on me. That ninja. He and I are going through it all the time. So when I come back, I'm going to take Maurice from North, and then I am going to go into my next guest, and then we'll get back to the rest of you. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. By the way, Uncle Bobby's was vandalized again last night. I stopped by there this morning after riding my bicycle and noticed that the store had been broken into. Someone threw a brick through the window again. It didn't look like they took anything, and I think this is like the 5th or 6th time that has happened, so I'm not really sure what's going on, but I need somebody to talk to me about why this store keeps being vandalized and why we're not understanding or hearing how can we support Mark Lamont Hill as we move forward. We will be right back after these messages.
WURD is supported by Temple University, Philadelphia's public university. At Temple, we aim to make college accessible for all. That's why we launched the Cecil B. Moore Scholars Program, a bridge program for high school students in North Philadelphia that offers pre-college support, including tutoring, career exploitation, and the opportunity to take a free course at Temple. It's part of our commitment to cultivate leaders from our city and to support all students in reaching their full potential.
The Black Words Book Club.
WURD Radio's new monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. For April, WURD Radio is partnering with the Free Library of Philadelphia and showcasing their pick for its annual citywide reading program, One Book, One Philadelphia, entitled The Tradition by Jericho Brown. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, April 13th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy.
A vignette for Cody Anderson. It's a rap. I said it's a rap. I think Cody would approve. It's called That's Cody. C-O-D-Y. That's Cody. C-O-D-Y. C is for compassion. That's Cody. O is for outstanding. That's Cody. D is for devoted to family, doing good in the community. That's Cody. That's Cody. Oh, that's Cody. Y is you can do it. Encourager. That's Cody. A real encourager. And last but not least, radio icon. That's Cody. That's Cody. Yeah, that's a rap. That's Cody. That's Cody.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Before we go to our next guest, who is the CEO of Easter Seals, someone who I would love for you all to get to know, because they're offering services that the community could take advantage of if you have young children between the ages of, I believe, birth to 3 or 5. I'll get the full scope of it from him when we get on the phone. It's been a full crazy week, so that you can get these services, because oftentimes in our communities we don't know where to turn for help, and the Easter Seals has great programming for that. Let me quickly take Maurice, and then I'll go to my guest, Carl Webster. Maurice, are you there?
Yeah, Sister. Good afternoon. How's everything?
Good. I am hanging. It was a rough. Thank you for calling in on Thursday when I was off. Michael Cord stepped in for me and giving a beautiful conversation about Dr. Emma Chappelle, who passed away. It's always a pleasure hearing your voice. What's going on today?
Well, I want to thank the brother for the kind words, but I want to say some more things. Why Ms. Emma Chappelle is bigger than Philadelphia. And what Philadelphia has to understand, we got some great churches here that we don't know anything about. Philadelphia had 3 of the biggest civil rights icons, not in America, but around the globe. That was Dr. Leon Sullivan, that was Congressman Bill Gray, and that was Dr. Emma Chappelle. When you look at the economic movement underneath President Nelson Mandela when he came home,
yes,
it's Dr. Chappelle work. When you look underneath the movement that Jesse Jackson had with Rainbow Push Operation, that's Dr. Chappelle work. We look at the civil rights movement of the late 60s and the early 70s underneath the leadership, talking with Martin Luther King, through the mentoring of Dr. Leon Sullivan, that's Dr. Chappelle work. She's bigger and she's global. Why? Because Dr. Leon Sullivan work went through Europe and South Africa. That make you a global icon. That make you have what they call international business dealing. That's why she's so important. Because through her and Dr. Leon Sullivan, they the only two could define what is America and how to fight America.
Yes.
Dr. Leon Sullivan has something called the Sullivan Principle.
Yes.
If you ever read the Sullivan Principle, he has something called uncooperative economics that the black people forgot that's even there. So when right now in black America and the world, we are in last place. We are a permanent underclass because we don't understand what's going on. We can say it's racism. We can say it's white supremacy. But unless we can define what American is, we can never be able to do anything to the thing that's ailing us. We have to be able to analyze and unturn why are we ill. How do we start at the top? And soon the movement goes, we go to the bottom. How can everyone else take the 13th, 14th Amendment that was just for black people because we weren't included in the United States Constitution, but yet everyone else is hijacking it.
Right.
Because we don't understand the pillars of how to build economic sustainability within black America.
Yes.
Our leaders have yet to determine how to build these pillars over in black America. We haven't had these pillars since we integrated. These pillars have been destroyed. We have to rebuild these pillars. Even if they put $1 billion in black America, it will run through black America like an hour in the same glass. There's no infrastructure to sustain it or longevity. And that's why Miss Emma Chappelle was so important to me. And last but not least, before I say that, I talked to her before she got sick. The last time I was face-to-face with her, I was on Wall Street in 2017. I met her I knew her since I was 13 years old. I knew her for 42 years. She reached out because she heard something about me, and she wanted to hear from herself about what leaders in the city, not all, but certain leaders were saying about my economic program, that my economic program was to attack 46 and Market, Ms. Della Clark program, and programs like that, and that wasn't true. So she reached out to me. I sent her what I was working on. And what I was working on is what I learned from her and Dr. Leon Sullivan. Not just to create economics, but how do we create jobs? I'm not trying to take no one sunshine. There's enough work for more people in the city to do what Ms. Emma Chappelle done. We have to educate ourselves on what she did and what Dr. Leon Sullivan's message was to be able to get the work done.
So,
I'm
Maurice,
a student over there.
Can I ask you this? I want to do an in-depth conversation about Emma Chappelle. Can I interview you one day this week about that? Are you open to that? All right. When you don't hang up, go to Michael. Michael will talk to you. He'll give you Brianna's email address. That's my other producer, and they'll set up a time for you and I to talk this week, and we'll have a good conversation instead of just your calling in and giving you 2 minutes to talk. Is that all right?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much. Oh, I love these smart, well thought out, well reasoned folks who are understanding that it's not just about the fussing and the complaining, but how much time and effort we put into creating the infrastructure so that we can move forward as a people. It's unbelievable. But let me move forward so that I can have this conversation because I've been waiting for it. Carl Webster is the Executive Director, CEO of Easter Seals of Southeastern Pennsylvania. Carl has over 40 years of experience in not-for-profit agency management and has served as an Executive Director, CEO of Easter Seals of Southeastern Pennsylvania since 2001. Prior to coming to the Philadelphia area, Carl was the President and CEO for Easter Seals, Eastern Pennsylvania, based in Allentown. He served in this capacity for 12 years and had a proven record of program growth, quality management, and sound financial stewardship. As America's largest nonprofit healthcare organization, Easter Seals is committed to the comprehensive health and wellness of the more than 1.5 million people it serves each year and is prepared to respond to the needs of the 1 in 4 Americans living with disability today with outcomes-based service for all disabilities throughout the lifespan. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I am well, Andrea. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. So, I want the folks here on WURD radio and beyond, the listening audience, to hear what Easter Seals do, who are the people you're serving, to what age do you go, and how can they reach you to get said services?
So Easter Seals provides therapy and educational services to children with physical, developmental, and behavioral issues. And primarily, we're serving children from birth to 6 to 8 years of age.
That's what I thought.
We do some older services, but more on a more limited basis. And, we provide a whole range of things depending on the needs of the individual. Our services for kids from birth to 3 are typically done in homes or other natural community settings. It's a parent training model where we work with the parent or caregiver of a child to help them understand how to do things with their child that improve their developmental functioning. You know, Andrea, we believe that every individual, regardless of how severe a disability they may have, they can achieve greater independence, greater functional skills, be more able to access all of the things that our community has to offer to every citizen. For kids who are 3 to 5 years of age, we might be serving those kids in a home or other natural community setting, or we may serve them in one of our various preschool programs, some of which are inclusive programs. We have 50% of the kids are children with disabilities, and 50% of the kids are kids who are typically developing. And we think that role modeling and interaction with others both helps typically developing individuals, kids, understand better how to interact with and be a part of the disability community, but also helps provide modeling for kids with disabilities and helps them to grow and expand their independence. So we've got a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, so has Easter Seals always worked this way, with 50% children with disabilities and 50% developing, typically developing students?
No, I think that's fairly new for us, especially in our area. We've been doing this for about 10 years now. It's a little bit different for us, but we think it's a model that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yes.
We believe passionately that people with disabilities, regardless of age or disability, should not be segregated, should not be put into boxes, but should have the same choices and options that all of us have. So we want every person we serve to be served in what's called the least restrictive environment. If a child can be served in a typical setting, we want to do that. There are some kids that need to have a more segregated setting based on the needs they have, the level of disability, the intensity of services they may need. But whenever possible, we try to create as much a natural environment as possible for kids with disabilities. We think that helps them to grow and mature into the most functional adults and to be able to best access the community.
Okay, so let me ask you this. How can the average parent, because we've had parents who says, you know, my child, you know, got kicked out of preschool or is having some developmental delays and I don't know what to do with them, or, you know, I'm waiting to put them into the elementary school. How can they, how does the Easter Seals get involved? Is this through servicing organizations, or is there a way for a family member to reach out to you personally as an organization to say, I need this? How can they find you?
Well, they can find us a couple of ways, and folks come to us in a couple of ways. Our website is www.easterseals-sepa.org. They can also call our main office, which is 215-879-1000. But to kind of the question I think you're asking is, and I refer to it sometimes as the playground conversation. You know, we're at the playground with our kids and we're watching kids play, and you kind of look at your child and say, gee, that doesn't seem to be running as fast or jumping as high or talking as much as some of the other kids in the playground. Does my child have a problem? That's the first question, right? Easter Seals has a unique opportunity for families. It's called the Ages and Stages Questionnaire. And a parent can access this online. They can go online to our website or just Google Ages and Stages Questionnaire. And based on the age of your child, you're given a set of questions to answer. It's all confidential. You answer these questions and submit them and one of our folks reviews the information submitted, and we'll get back to the family with one of a couple of different responses. One is, seems like your child is fine. You don't need to worry.
Right.
Or maybe your child seems fine right now, but you might want to check back in 6 months, and let's monitor this.
Okay.
Or, gee, maybe you should reach out for potential services based on the needs of your child. And then with those families, we follow up directly to say, we understand it may be helpful for you to access some services for your child, and then we'll help connect them into the system, if you will.
Well, Mr.
Sometimes
Webster.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So here's what I'm thinking. I am a mother of 2 sons and wanted them to both be developmentally fine. One was born 8 weeks early, and they both were developmentally fine. But as parents, we all want our children to be developmentally fine. When we do a questionnaire like ages and stages, and then we are hearing that we need to call, who will be able to alleviate the concerns of the natural angst that the parent will be bringing to the conversation? How do you navigate through that with them?
Well, hopefully with sensitivity. No one wants to say, gee, my kid has needs. We all want the best for our kids. It can be heartbreaking to say to yourself, gee, my child has a disability or has limitations, and you start to think the worst. You know, what does that mean? What's going to happen to my child? Da da da. Hopefully, we handle those kind of parental concerns with empathy and understanding.
Yes.
We also want to impart. I hope I am today, and I hope we always do, that the future is not a bleak one.
Right.
Children with disabilities have amazing futures, and kids with disabilities constantly amaze us with what they are able to do versus what they are unable to do. I still get fascinated sometimes with physicians and some healthcare providers who will say to a family, well, gee, you know, your child has cerebral palsy, so they'll never be able to. They'll never be able to walk. They'll never be able to run. They'll never be able to talk. They'll never be able to. And the reason that fascinates me is because we see every day how those kids who have been told they'll never be able to do something end up being able to do that.
Right.
I remember a mom telling me that her physician told her her daughter would never be able to ride a bicycle.
Wow.
And she said, when my daughter was 8, I was looking out the kitchen window. I was at the sink, and I was looking out the window, and there goes my daughter down
riding
the driveway
the bicycle. There
on
you
a bicycle. And as she runs out of the house trying to chase her down and grab her. The point is, we don't know what a child can do until we try.
Absolutely.
And so the message I would have to families is, you want the best for your child, and the earlier we can help provide services if there is a need, the more progress your child can make.
Yes.
And please make that phone call to us or to your pediatrician, or if you're school age, to the school nurse or someone at the school. If you're in a pre-K program or a child care program, reach out to your teacher and say, my child may need some extra help. How do I get that?
Right.
And we're all able to help get you into the right place for you as a parent, for your child, to maximize the potential.
Amen. So again, the phone number is 215-879-1000, and it's easterseals-csepa.org to reach. Correct, right?
Correct.
Okay. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Webster. People are asking for the contact information in our social media pages, so be prepared. Once we do interviews here, folks start reaching out to get the services because oftentimes they don't know where to turn, and hearing a conversation like this gives them just the spark and the right amount of energy to reach out to your organization. Thank you for the work that you continue to do, and thank you to the entire staff that works with empathy and kindness on behalf of the young children with disabilities that they serve. You have a good afternoon, okay?
Thank you for giving us the chance to brag a little bit.
That's right. That is exactly right. I thought that was important for people to know who you were. You have a good afternoon, okay?
Thanks. You too, Andrew.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. So I really wanted you guys to hear about Easter Seals and what they've done. It was a tragedy that led to this inspiration. I'm going to tell you a little bit more when we get back from the break because I've got to go to break. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
If you haven't had the privilege to use ACAP's products, treat yourself. We made it easy for you to shop for good quality essential products with the help of local businesses such as cultural stores, convenience stores, gas stations, and local supermarkets. ACAPs, servicing the community since 1969.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. When I'm on the air with all of you, when we talk about all the issues as we see them happening in this city and beyond, it is very important that we find solutions, right? So, yeah, we can fuss and complain, but let's figure out how we can get help. And when I started speaking to the folks at Easter Seals, I said, oh, you need to get on my show. Folks need to know, because, we assume everybody knows that Easter Seals exists, and oftentimes parents only hear about Easter Seals but when the child gets to school, like kindergarten, and the teacher starts saying things like, well, your child is developmentally delayed, and there's all this, negotiation and angst and everything in between. We often know as parents when our children are developmentally delayed, and we try to push our way through. But when we know that something like the Easter Seals, a program like the Easter Seals exists that can absolutely help you, so that by the time your child gets to the school age, they're in a place where they can help them. And like Mr. Webster says, it is not a death sentence, and it's not something that your child can't thrive and succeed and grow. It just simply means that they learn differently. Some of the most brilliant children I have ever met are autistic. They're on the autism spectrum. And so we don't want to label children and not give them the help that they need. And I also love the fact that Easter Seals works with 50% children that are typically developmentally running along at a good pace so that they can learn empathy and working with their peers. right, of that same age, so that when they get to elementary school, it's not unusual for those young children who are typically developing properly, or on pace, I should say, typically developing on pace, to see a peer that may not be developing as quickly as them, and they'll have empathy and go and help them and support them versus pointing fingers, because that's how bullying starts, right? And so this was great. That was a good conversation. If you want to reach out to Easter Seals of Southeast Pennsylvania, call 215-879-1000, or Easter Seals, that's EASTERSEALS dash SEPA.org. I put it in the chat over here. I think I spelled Easter incorrectly, but y'all, listen, if you've been going to church forever and a day, you know how to spell Easter, EASTER. And so I'm going to move along for a little bit. Thank you, Nick Taliaferro. You all have been just so kind to me. And whenever there's something going on that you want us to talk about, discuss here on The Source, we're happy to do it, right? We want to make sure that you're getting what you need, not what I think you should get. And that's why I've been keeping my ear to the ground to give you the kinds of topics of things that may mean something to you. The violence in this city is working every nerve ending that I have. We are having community meetings, we're having press conferences, we're putting money together to target it. And you know, Anton Moore said something that struck me because I believe it wholeheartedly. If we spend time, if everybody in this city spend time getting to know the neighbors that live amongst them, working with the families. And it's something as simple as a smile and a good morning, right? When they're little, don't wait until they become teenagers and hardened and so much stuff going on in their lives. We see stuff happening in their homes and we do absolutely nothing. Then they become hardened teenagers who becomes hardened adults who are taking people's lives. You know, we have to get to a better place at this. And so, you know, I looked up this morning because it's been hard, right? Another person, Philadelphia police in the 24th district are investigating a double shooting that left one man dead. So who is this person that died? What is the story of this person? We can't just continue to say, you know, well, such and such passed away, and we give a name of the victim, and that's the end of that, because there are families tied to this. And so at 2:20, I'm going to have one of those families on this show. I'm promising you, I need you to anchor yourselves, because we're going to go in and have a detailed conversation. This was written by ABC Digital staff, whoever they are. The shooting happened on Saturday, just before 6 p.m. inside an apartment on the 2900 block of Jasper Street. Police say a 23-year-old man was shot once in the chest. He was transported to Temple University by police, where he was pronounced dead a short time later. Officials say a 27-year-old man was also shot once in the right arm. He was also transported to the Temple University by police, where he was placed in stable conditions. Both identities of the victims are still currently unknown. A 26-year-old man was placed in custody, and 2 firearms were recovered, officials say. There is no word surrounding a motive for this incident at this time. I'd like to take a little bit of liberty to talk to the media. Those of you who are writing the stories, sometimes you know who the victims are, sometimes you don't. But I'm going to ask you nicely that when you find out who the victims are, try to be a little bit, when you're writing the story, humanize them. Right? Don't just make it seem like you're writing about a statistics. I get it. You're writing about all these murders, all these things that are going around in the city at all times. And if at 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, just please humanize. The families are reading these stories. And sometimes, plenty of times, we don't get it right. And we don't get it right because we just take what we hear from the police scanner, or what we get from what we looked up, and reach out to the families, talk to them, see what's going on, you know. I think that when we start to humanize folks, then the brunt of these deaths are just devastating to people, and we just can't, you know, it's another day and it's another top of the line story, top of the news story that we're doing in this city. Philadelphia is just one of many cities across the country that are dealing with excess violence right now, but we cannot afford to become so desensitized that we're counting people by numbers instead of by who they were, what were their names, what were they like growing up. Right? What are we missing? What did we miss about them? It's too much. It is absolutely too much. All right. So, let me see here. I'm going to do this. Thank you, Cindy Adams. Cindy Adams is agreeing with me over here because it's a lot. And then I see this. Trish Hartman and the 6ABC digital staff. Transgender woman stabbed multiple times in Germantown. Philadelphia police are investigating the stabbing that left a transgender woman critically injured. It happened around midnight Saturday on the 200 block of Montana Street in the city's Germantown section. Police say the suspect met the 32-year-old victim last night and brought her back to a home where he lives with his mother. The investigation reveals that the offender began to rip her clothes off. Officials say the victim pushed him away, at which time the offender grabbed a knife and began to stab the victim multiple times. The suspect's mother called 911. The offender has later been identified as 45-year-old Robert Eastley, who was charged with attempted rape, aggravated assault, and sexual assault related offenses. And so we have to be incredibly, we have to pay attention. We have to pay attention. A neighbor said that she didn't hear a thing, but you never know these days. Neighbor says the block is usually quiet and didn't know Eastley well. And so oftentimes we live in the shadows of the things that we want to say and do, and we get offended. Transgender people are people too. Right? They belong to someone's family. I want us to be very, very mindful in the judgment. One of the things that I learned in Leah's passing is that, you know, we spend a lot of time casting judgment on folks, right? We spend a lot of time in hurt and craziness, and people leave out of here, you know, feeling like they were not loved or treasured. There is nothing that's so terrible. When you spend 9 months giving birth to carrying a child and giving birth to a child, when you raise that child and loved on them, and only to get to a place where the child decides that they're LGBTQ, IA, you know, or they're transgender, or however the case may be. I have friends who have children who are transgender, and we walked and talked through that. They've lost friends, they've lost family members. We have got to get better. We've got to get better, because transgender children become transgender adults who often take their lives. They're suicidal, they're incredibly depressed, and so they find themselves in places where, you know, they shouldn't be, because there's no one loving on them. We all deserve a modicum of love and kindness. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
COVID-19 has highlighted the need for digital equity and internet adoption programs. Comcast's Internet Essentials program is designed to connect families to low-cost, high-speed internet and laptops so students can be ready for anything. Since 2011, Comcast has connected 4 million students from low-income families to the internet through its Internet Essentials program. Learn more about how Internet Essentials is connecting students.
This is not a fad for us.
We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are
Undeniably,
indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media.
WURD.
This Women's History Month, WURD Radio is proud to celebrate Black women innovators and trailblazers who have helped us all level up.
Trailblazing Black woman Roz Brewer is an American businesswoman and Spelman grad who is slated to become the CEO of Walgreens, which will make her the first Black female CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Brewer started her career at Kimberly-Clark Corporation as a scientist. She eventually advanced to vice president of the global nonwoven sector in 2004, eventually moving on to regional VP of Walmart in Georgia. In 2012, she was named president and CEO of Sam's Club, becoming the first African American to lead a Walmart division. She focused on health and wellness by doubling the amount of organic products offered at Sam's Clubs. She is currently the COO of Starbucks, and in 2018, she was listed as the 34th in Forbes' ranking of the most powerful women.
This Women's History Month vignette was brought to you by AARP Pennsylvania, Pico, powering communities, and Jefferson Health, improving lives by redefining exceptional and safe care. Because now more than ever, your health can't wait. Call 1-800-JEFF-NOW today.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. My very next guest is going to be someone who won a grant from the State Department to help address tensions within the black communities in the United States. Could not have had it happen at a better time. And so let me quickly take these calls. Rick from Germany, are you there?
Ma'am, I am here.
How are you?
Still alive. Another day on God's good green earth.
Yes, sir.
I called to ask you about not only the violence in Philadelphia, but the violence against Asian Americans.
Yes, I'm going to address it at 3 o'clock today.
Okay. Are black people, black men, young people involved in that anti-Asian hate?
I don't. Here you all go again. All right, I'm going to check into it. Okay. Because I have been having conversations. I am, because I have been having conversations with black folks who say there has always been tensions between black folks and the Asians because they feel like they don't care about us, blah, 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 blah. And so while there are lots of folks who are saying, you know, stop the hate against Asians, there's that chatter in the background. So I need to have a full discussion around that to fully address that piece. And I will talk to Nadira when she comes on in a little bit about that piece of it. Okay?
Thank you, sister.
Oh, you're quite welcome, my brother. Take it easy, okay? All right, bye-bye. Prince, all right, honey, I got 2 minutes, and then I got to get on my next call. What's going on, sir?
Hey, how are you?
I'm alive. I'm coming back to life. How about that? That's about all I can give you today.
We held it down. He was gone, so that was a good thing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be the young man that got shot running back onto the prison.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that gate was left open, the fact that there was no one man in that booth that we paid for, and the fact that the guy in the tower who is instructed to shoot people either coming on or leaving off the ground illegally, you know, those things poses a bunch of questions. And in an investigation, we're going to find that somebody shot the ball. And that's
I had some questions too, Prince. That made absolutely no sense to me. Like, they just sat there and watched the man get shot and killed. Like, don't you have guns?
Right. It made no sense to a lot of taxpaying people, because the question that we're left with is, who was responsible? Like, he dropped the ball in so many areas. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
And so when we start to acknowledge that there was an investigation, there will be an investigation, and the ball was dropped, then the person at the head, usually they head rolls when it's this kind of incompetence. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I make all that to say this right here. Number one, a couple months ago, George was absolutely correct when he said that there was disgruntled people and the correctional officer. I think he came on your show and he said that.
Yes, he did.
He led with that. Yep, he kept saying that. And so I'll let him talk about that. But we come to your show first with good information and it's undisputed information. And if we agree that there was so much that was the ball was dropped in so many ways that the person at the head should be fired, period.
Okay.
If we agree on that, then we can't use the adage, it's a black female. Because if you close your eyes and look at where the ball was dropped at, in so many areas, you know, there's a law.
The head of the prison system is a black woman, correct?
Yes.
Someone I have been trying to get an interview with since I got on the air to no avail. It is almost impossible to reach her. Her folks don't even respond to an email.
How about that? And so at the end of the day, now those people have the opportunity to sue us collectively, taxpayers, for negligence of a prison system because it was not operated or manned. You're talking about 1 o'clock in the morning. The shift starts at 11. You brand new on the shift, and for the first 2 hours you can't man your post. You know, that is unacceptable. And so we're not hard on people doing their job, Andrea. We're just hard on people who are getting a paycheck and deliberately not doing their job. All right, that's all I want to say. Have a great day. And
Thank you.
Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, my brother. Michael, tell George to call Mother back because I don't want to cut him off. So tell him to call Mother back. Okay, let me take this next guest, and so that I don't feel like I'm rushing him. So tell George to call Mother back. All right. So listen, here's a conversation that I can't wait to have because I think it ties right in with the stuff that's going on. Nadira Branch recently won a grant from the State Department to help address tensions within the Black communities in the United States. She's CEO at Administrative Associates, LLC. She possesses over 17 years of diverse experience in technical writing, research, and analysis. And within the last 3 years, she has helped her clients generate over $5 million in grants and individual contributions. She received a Master of Public Administration from the University of Pennsylvania and a Bachelor of Arts from the Penn State University. She's a proud alumna of Fulbright, Peace Corps, AmeriCorps Vista, Benjamin A. Gilman, and several other prestigious programs, and she travels all over the world. Good afternoon, madam. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me on your program. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. So talk to me about this grant that you got regarding tensions in the Black community. Describe to us what that means, and then let's have a dialogue around it, right? All right?
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, essentially, this is a grant for alumni of U.S. government exchange of alumni who participated in U.S. government exchange programs like the ones you just mentioned that are all funded in some way by the State Department. So you had to have completed one of their sanctioned programs, and I've completed multiple. And I wrote a proposal because I've seen these tensions within the Black community, and I wanted to help. I wanted to be a part of the solution and not just continue to be a part of the problems that divide us. And so essentially the program is to address tensions between Black communities, and specifically it's to address tensions between African Americans, the American descendants of slavery who are descendants of enslaved Africans who have been here since they arrived in the U.S., and Black immigrants from Africa and from the Caribbean. Those are the tensions that I want to specifically address.
So what have you been noticing? Because let me be very clear with you. Everybody that listens to this radio station knows Mother's from Jamaica.
Yeah.
And the WURD listeners gave me quite a historical lesson, right? Because when I first got on here, I said, Nadira, I kept saying to them, but I'm Black too. Slaves were, they dropped our slaves off in Jamaica and other places. How come is it? And right. I had to literally, it's amazing that when you have an open mind and an open heart, then you can learn. So then I began learning historically what's been happening here in this country, the caste system, what has been, how people of enslaved Africans that were born and raised here, how they're treated, and the caste system that they're put into. Yeah. And I also noticed, quite honestly, when Black folks come from other countries, they're told things like, well, you're not like the people that are born and raised here. So I have to caution the people that are immigrants coming into this country to be very careful not to buy into that, because what they're buying into, what they think they're buying into is, well, even though I'm Black, even I may have an accent, or they may treat me a little differently because I was not born and raised here. And that's the tension that it caused. I also remember, Nadira, because this is why I tell you I wanted to really have those conversations. I've walked into banks. When I first came here and people heard that I was from Jamaica with my really thick accent, they would say things like, we don't want anything to do with you. You're Jamaicans. You all killing people, and you're dealing with. And I'm going, where in the Sam Hill did you get all of that stuff from? Because we buy into these narratives. So, what are you hoping to achieve with these conversations that you're getting ready to have?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So, I want to deal with the stereotypes that we say in our homes and around our friends that perpetuate stereotypes about other Black people within the Black community. I've heard them just because I have the privilege of being able to speak French, and I want to deal with them. So this program here is really designed to deal with the questions that people say, and it's going to be the questions that I want, the topics that I want to discuss are going to be controversial, painful.
Yes.
Right? They are provocative questions. I didn't make up these questions. So for instance, if I may, people usually ask me, Nadira, do you speak African? African's not a language. You know, Africa is a continent. It's not a country. And so I want to deal with a question like that. And especially from my African and Caribbean friends, I've heard like, well, why are Black families so broken? Like why are Black American communities so poor here in America? I want to deal with these, yes, I want to get real. Like I want to deal with these questions. And the whole point of each session is to debunk these stereotypes with evidence, not just testimonies. Right. So I feel that this is a painful, this may be a painful experience, but I think in order to get to healing, we need to deal with the issues.
Agreed, Nadira. And those conversations that you're talking about are not only painful, they cause serious angst within our families, right? So every time I hear someone say African Americans in America are lazy and they don't, I said, you are buying into the stereotype that has been fed you since you got here. As my friend Leah would say, shut your pie hole and learn something about this country. If you had your foot, if someone had their foot on your neck the entire time from the time you were born, right? Yeah. I find people that are born and raised in America here that are Black and brown to be the most resilient, creative people on the planet. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Because they just never get the kinds of leg up that those of us who were born and raised somewhere else with our brown skins, yes, there are problems everywhere you go. But, you know, for instance, where I was born and raised, everything looks like you know, me, the prime minister, the teacher, the doctor, the whatever. And so there's a different level of being raised up. So you walk up here in your ancestry like you got it all going on together, and you forget that the people that were born and raised here just were trampled on and talked about and treated horribly, and there are all kinds of stereotypes about them, and we are ill-advised to find ourselves caught up into that, right? So you know what I do, Nadira? You know what Mother does?
What do you do?
When I had my Sunday dinners, I would invite people from across the continent, from different parts of the United States, from the islands, and we would sit down and we would start to debunk. I would make people ask the questions that they wanted to ask. You understand what I'm saying? So when they would say, well, but why is such and such happening? Or why did they go? I would say, we cannot judge. And then they would ask us questions about the islands, or we would ask a question about South Sudan or Ethiopia or whoever is at the dinner table at the time. It's nice to come and eat some good food, but I'm also giving you food for the soul. You know what I mean?
I've seen your food. It looks amazing. I think if I can add, that's the goal of the second part of the program. The second part, so the first part, we're going to get real, right? And we're going to have a really, we're going to have some tough and difficult conversations, but it's a safe space.
Yes.
Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, and the second part of the program, we are going to see how we're more alike than not.
Yes.
So, for instance, there would be no jambalaya without jollof, right? A lot of people don't know that the banjo originated from the kora. And I can go on and on about our food, our language, our music. I want Africans, for instance, to see Africa in America. I want them to look at us like that instead of us as just those Black Americans. No, we are Africans, even if we don't know it, you know, we are children of Africans. And I want us to see commonalities between us instead of just seeing us as separate groups. So yeah, we're going to get there. There will be healing. And I'm so thankful to the State Department Citizens Action Fund for allowing me to do this. And I have some great partnerships along the way as well. And this is it's a virtual program that should be coming out next month online. So please look out for that. And so, yeah, thank you.
Can anyone join this program? How do they go about joining this, or have you already chosen your participants?
No, I actually am looking for speakers. I'm developing the survey right now. So I was just awarded this literally a week ago. And so this is hot off the presses. So please look out for this. My email address is Nadira, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, D as in David, I as in Ice, R as in Robert, A as in Apple, at my admin, ADMIN, associates.com. And associates is with an S. So I just please look out for the program. I'm developing the components of it as we speak. If you want to be a panelist for the program, please contact me. And I would love to have some speakers who would join the panels to contribute. And there will be folks who, I am going to have some French translators or French translation just for non-native English speakers. I'm developing that as well. And then I also am working with there's a public affairs section of the United States Embassy in Abidjan to have their input as well. So everyone who would be working, a participant may not be in America. And I really hope that enriches the program. But I really want this to be a full program here in Philadelphia, my hometown.
I love it. They love you on on social media. They're talking about you. This is wonderful. So you have always been unapologetically about your people, no matter where we are from the continent. Tell me a little bit about why you were traveling so much. What was the impetus behind that?
Okay, so I want to start with where my whole interest in Africa became, because I want to give Mama Chris a shout out. I don't know her last name. Yeah, I met Mama. I call her Mama Chris.
What? It's a small world.
I have to give her a shout out because I was an 8th grade student in her pilot program. It was the Songhai Empire. It was the 8th grade class of Leeds Middle School, and I was in class Hausa Fulani. And that, my whole 8th grade experience was, it got me so interested in learning about Africa. And that, I think that that started, at least in terms of her program, developed into Imhotep High School, right? So I was in the first, the first version of that program, of the pilot program. And so I studied abroad. I was thankful to study abroad at the University of Ghana in West Africa. And I loved it. I had such a great experience. I knew I had to go back. So I went back to live in the Republic of Mali for 2 years. I lived in a village for 2 years and studied Bambara and studied traditional cultures and everything. I also was able to win not one but 2 Fulbright grants. Yeah, thank you. Scholarships. So my first Fulbright was in the Republic of Haiti, which I was so blessed to learn about their culture and their history. I'm so impressed with Haitian Creole as a language because it just shows the resilience of Haitians there. And I was awarded my second Fulbright in the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, which I finished last in 2020. So I've been on this journey. I've also been to Ethiopia for another program, but I've been on this journey for self-discovery at a personal level for myself, but I also want to come in and see if I can make an impact in my community. So I'm often walking into Black immigrant stores and trying to greet people in local languages that I know, just maybe one or two words. I see that it builds bridges among us. I once sat next to and I greeted this one lady. I could see she was in her traditional clothes, and I just greeted her. I could tell she was from like a Bambara culture or a Jula culture, but because of how she was dressed. And so I sat and talked to her, and I didn't understand her particular type of Jula. And so I called my friend, and he did, and he told me where it's from. Do you know that she told me that she's been here for 2 years, and I'm the only African American that's ever talked to her? And it just broke my heart, you know? I mean, I didn't do anything revolutionary. I just went and talked to her and sat next to her, but that was just so impactful for her. And so there are other things that we could do. I've seen a lot of tensions just in hair braiding, something that unites us and Black hair braiding is a big deal. But I've just seen just differences just because you know, there's a misunderstanding. And I think that once we deal with the tough, I guess, stereotypes, have those difficult conversations, things that unite us, like hair and hair braiding and cultures, will bring us together. But I think we have to deal with those issues. And I've been trying for so long to tell people that these stereotypes are not true. And I found that hasn't worked so well for me in the past, and so I've switched to stop telling people, and I started showing them. And so what I've done, and at least when I'm abroad, I would turn on Facebook Live and I say, no, this is Africa. This is what you would say. Or I would walk around. I used to love walking around a traditional market and just being like a student and saying, well, what is this and what is that? And having the women explain things to me. And I found that has been very, very impactful to helping at least African Americans here understand that that us as Black people, we're more alike than not.
Agreed. I would like you to come back when you get the program off the ground. I'm volunteering to be a speaker.
Yay!
Because I'm telling you, those conversations are some that we really should continue to have. For instance, I have a young lady that sits at my dinner table. Her name is Niamal. I've had her on the show several times, and Niamal is from South Sudan, and you know, we would use cassava in Jamaica, but they called it something else, and the dish was very similar except they used different spices. And so it was amazing how we were learning from each other, and the intersectionality of culture. But it doesn't serve us when we don't love on each other and learn about one another in a way. Because I believe that if what you're trying to do works, Nadira, and we pull together the intersectionality of all our cultures together, we'd be such a powerful fist, right?
Oh my goodness. Amen. Yes. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. And I think for a long time, you know, we've had the media tell us African Americans about Africa, and we've had the media tell Africans about African Americans, and then add on the Caribbean to that, and then we have this one narrative, right, that's being told by non-Black people, if I may say, and we don't need to do that. We need to speak to each other. We need to validate our own language, our own cultures, our own histories. We don't need necessarily outsiders to do that. Yes, is it anything wrong with it? No, it's not. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think we have to validate us first. And in order to do that, just like in any other family, you have to deal with some real issues for the families to heal. And that's the perspective that I have.
Yeah, Thank you so much, Nadira. I so appreciate you. We'll catch up soon, okay? You have a good one.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
ma'am. And I'll catch up with you on as we move forward, and we'll let people know what we're doing next, okay?
Absolutely. Have a great day. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Attention WURD audience, do you know that you can get help with your PICO energy bill? PICO is here to help you with financial help through various assistance programs, including the PICO CAP program, which provides a monthly credit for eligible low-income customers based on the customer's total household gross income and energy usage. If you are experiencing financial hardship, you may qualify for the PICO CAP program.
And PICO Cares is the customer assistance and referral evaluation service designed to assist special needs, low-income customers who have a temporary personal or financial hardship that prevents the payment of your PICO energy bill. If you have a special needs child or adult in your care, your household may qualify for the CARES program.
Call 1-800-774-7040 today to see if you qualify due to an existing situation or a change in circumstances within your household. Call 1-800-774-7040 today for more information on the PICO CAP or PICO CARES program. PICO, powering our communities.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Don't miss the Dr. Emeka Show
On its brand new day and time.
Sundays from 4 p.m. till 5 p.m. beginning Sunday, April 4th.
Dr. Emeka.
Exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. So if you're just joining us, I just had a conversation with Nadira Branch, who was talking about a grant that she got from the State Department to deal with tensions within the African-American community. And so now this show is about to get alive and hotter than hot, because I'm getting ready to have conversations with Antonia Walker Jr.'s family. You may remember him when Anton Moore came on The Source last week when we were discussing the violence in the city of Philadelphia, and Antonia was one of the people that we talked about. And let me go over here for a little bit and tell you who was on here. Looks like I'm missing one person. Nadisha? Am I saying her name? Nadisha Williams, who is Antonia's mother, Martin Boyd, who is his grandfather, and the uncle. Is the uncle here, or he's not signing in?
I don't think the uncle was going to sign in.
All right, so listen, somebody is in the waiting room. I think he's getting ready to let that person in. Okay. Good afternoon to the both of you, and thank you for entrusting me to have this dialogue with you as it applies to your darling son and grandson. Tell us a little bit about what happened and what you experienced. Nadisha.
What I just experienced is just I experienced up close and personal why I feel like gun violence is so rampant in the city of Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. The police they're not doing their jobs accordingly. Mm-hmm. I experienced it up close and personal. I never got a phone call from a detective. I never, had any type of real communication regarding it. It's just the city is so numb. It just seems like this is my job. I'm clocking in, I'm clocking out, I'm paying my bills, and I'm in rinse and repeat. It wasn't that core reason for why are you a police officer? Mm-hmm. First and foremost, you're supposed to protect and serve. Mm-hmm. Every day after day, I'm watching the news, and it always ends with no suspects, no suspects, no suspects. And, you know, you wonder why is no suspects. And I just think that the police need to be, it's very important for them to be way more aggressive with their jobs than they are now. That's what one of the hugest things that I've witnessed as far as why this is happening. As I feel like people know that is a higher possibility that they will not get caught if they did a crime.
Right.
And that is unacceptable.
So tell me who your son is. Tell us who your son was that was never reported on the news.
Well, first off, the news just said, oh, another 15-year-old, just the way that they presented it. I called them back and told them I was very disgusted on you just made him another black male shot dead first day that it was nice weather, almost like it was expected. They were just, it just seemed so numb. So I called them back out to say, hey, listen, I didn't ask you guys to tell my son's story, but if you're going to speak on him on, you know, television, then you need to know who he is. He's not just a 15-year-old black kid that got shot. He's an honor roll student. He's an athlete. He's very conscious of the universe. He's just so much more than just a black kid that was shot.
I'm so glad we're able to have this dialogue with you. Are you okay? All right. So okay, good. Okay, Michael, let him in. Let him in. We had someone in the Zoom. We weren't sure who it was. Let the other person in. Mr. Boyd, this is your grandson. Give me a description of what you experienced when Antonio was shot and killed. Do we know exactly what happened to him now? Nadisha, do you know what happened to him?
I'm sorry, what happened to him as far as him getting shot?
Yeah, yes. Do you know? Did anyone explain to you how did your son end up? So you have no
I
idea.
don't even know. 1 minute I heard it was a gunshot to the arm, a gunshot to the chest. I don't even know how many times he was shot, exactly where he was shot. I don't know anything. I don't even know where his shoes, I don't even know where the rest of his belongings are to this day. It's just the lack of empathy, the lack of professionalism, the lack of care. The city has to do better.
All right. Let me talk to your father, Mr. Lord. I can't. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. We're dealing with so many funerals, and you know, it seems so trite to say our condolences. You know why I wanted to talk to you? I have sons. And when Anton Moore called me and told me your story, I'm talking to him and I'm in tears, right? Because we give birth to these children and it's unimaginable that they could be gunned down. We don't know what happened to them. Nobody tells us how they were shot. We don't know any of these things. And we worked so hard. Here's a child that was on the honor roll and nobody's reporting who he was. It was just another statistic. So I hear you, Mom. My heart and shoulder goes out to you because I am glad you have this platform to talk. All right, Mr. Boyd, tell us what is your end of this story here? Because Anton reached out to you on my behalf when I heard about Antonio.
So again, thank you for the opportunity. So we just here to set the record straight. I talked to you earlier about my experience, and my experience was you get a phone call. We're not the family that's connected to the streets and murder and mayhem. We get a phone call. I get to the hospital, and I pull up at the hospital. And in my mind, my expectation was that we were going to be treated at least with some humanity, is what my expectation was. And we get to the hospital. I see my son. He's leaning on the wall, crying, and I'm not talking about he's bawling, crying. So I walk over to console him. At the entrance to the hospital door, this is University of Presbyterian, which is University of Penn. It's 5 or 6 young security guards just jacked up like this with energy that just was saying they looking for confrontation. I'm looking to console my son. And they had another gentleman that came out the hospital. He may have had some mental health issues because he's arguing with them about a pair of sneaks, while me and my son is trying to process the death of my grandson, the murder of my grandson, and the murder of his nephew. And which struck me was, this is a hospital that's located in a disenfranchised community that we understand. While we was there, 4 or 5 shooting victims came through the ward while we was there. So we get to why they got to here, and we never met. Nobody came outside to talk to us about grieving. No, like Dee said, nobody. We are operating on rumors. I don't know if my grandson got shot 13 times, one time. I don't know what wound, which one did the job. I don't know what wound killed them. We don't know none of that. We're operating on secondhand rumors, and I felt it was a sting because we never met a medical professional. We never met anybody that came outside to address a traumatized family standing we were like in the parking lot. It took us like 10 minutes to realize that this is what it is. And you just got to leave. And we asked, could we speak to a cop or somebody to tell us what's the next steps? So here's how we left the hospital. Not knowing when he was going to the morgue, not knowing none of the process, not knowing when we was going to be able to see him again, not knowing if we was going to be able to see him again. All we heard repeatedly was this: somebody will reach out to you.
And so no one has reached out to you at all?
The way they reached out to us is because we reached out to them. Because we sent emails to the police commissioner, because we know people and our family is sort of politically connected. And when people found out it was us, then the politicians started to call. And when the politicians called, they laid weight onto the judicial system and made the police make some type of last-ditch effort. But they came, I think they came 2 days later in the morning, but they still didn't tell us anything. They still didn't give us, we don't have no closure. We don't have no information. We have nothing. What we have is, we went through the whole funeral process, and we have not yet, to the date, while we're talking to you right now, the day this happened last Tuesday, this is Monday, we haven't spoken to anyone.
This is crazy. Mr. Boyd, young Mr. Boyd, how are you, sir?
I'm getting it together. I'm holding up.
This was your nephew, correct?
Yes.
This is your sister's son.
Yes.
Talk to us about. So I'm trying to keep it together because I'm just sick. I'm sick. I'm numb by the amount of A, shootings in this city, B, lives being snuffed out, that, here you are, this young man was not caught up in the streets at all, you still don't know what's going on, and I feel in my heart there has to be a better process when dealing with families and letting folks know what is going on, and because we're too desensitized, right? So where were you when all of this happened, and have you learned anything about your nephew since he's passed away?
I got the call that my nephew passed away. I was actually in my gym. I got the call. My mom called me, and of course she just was devastated. I went straight to the hospital. And they told me, I told them who I was, and my nephew been shot. And they told me that you can't go back there. I didn't know the process. Like, I didn't know. I'm thinking, if my nephew shot, I'm the uncle. I can prove all the stuff I wanted to just say. It's even frustrating, even just bring it up again, but yeah.
I'm breathing because I just had to bury a friend of mine on Saturday, the same day as your nephew's funeral. So I can feel all of your pain at this point. And so I'm trying to have a coherent conversation with you all without bursting into tears. This is about as honest as I can get. Nadisha, Nadisha, am I saying your name properly?
It's okay. It's Nadisha. It's fine.
Nadisha, thank you. Nadisha. I'm not having a good afternoon here because I'm getting emotional. What do you want to say A, to the city of Philadelphia, B, to the police department, and C, to the media around how this whole thing transpired and what could they have done differently, because we don't want anybody else to go through this, God forbid. And then I need you all to tell me, because I heard this, that someone reached out to you saying that they know who did this, right? And I'm going to ask you not to give names or addresses, but to just tell us what was said to you. And how do we let the police know these things?
What I want to just tell the media and the cops and everything, you know, everybody just has to do better, because I would bet my last dollar and say, if it was some type of incentive, not saying that it should be, but if it was an incentive, hey, you know, the next murder, you will get a bonus, a $10,000 bonus on your check. Nothing is going to tell me that all of a sudden more murders are going to be solved. They have no They need to go back to the drawing board, find their purpose, find their passion, and do their job. They picked a very unique, when you sign up to be an officer, a detective, or whatever, you sign up for a very unique job. You are really, you have to have passion. And even if you started and it wasn't what you expected, maybe, I don't know, they need to do better. Everybody needs to do better. They need to do their jobs. What they have, the type of job they have, it goes way past a paycheck. And I think that, you know, listen, I've been traveling around different countries. I see crime rates in different, you know, zip codes, different countries, different states, different cities, and it's all based on the severity of their law enforcement. You know, if you go, even being a Philadelphia resident, you know, if you cross City Line Avenue and you in Bala Kenwood, the operation is different. You don't know what's different, but you know it's different. People say, oh, they don't play over there. So what does that mean? That means that they take their job seriously. Whatever kind of energy they have over there is the same kind of energy they need to have in Philadelphia. I mean, they don't even till like the riots. Look how they did Center City with the riots. They tried to go up King of Prussia, but what they did in Philadelphia, they literally could not do in the county. Is a different structure somewhere that's being broken up in Philadelphia, and they need to get some extra resources, get some new trainers. They need to do that. And as far as the media needs to be way more sensitive when they're just putting out a story, because they desensitize to, you're talking about a 15-year-old male. Reach out to the family. You just don't just put that out there. Like, it's disrespectful. So everybody just need to do better.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. Mr. Boyd, Sr., can you talk to us about the person that reached out to Nadisha?
The no snitch, bad community relationships between the police and the community that they do police. It's not a scene. The process is not right. And I'm gonna say this before I answer your question. We had Police Commissioner Ramsey here when he was the police commissioner. And Police Commissioner Ramsey, not to say one is better but I just like people to think innovative. So he had an ideal that he tried to promote. And his ideal was simply, you cannot become a police officer unless you go to the military for 2 years after you graduate high school, or unless you, it was the military or was college. To learn some type of, have a more broader mindset. Now, I'm from the city. I live in this community. I see, what I'm talking about, what I see. I see mostly Caucasian police officers, young, not skilled at all when it comes down to dealing with our youth and the culture and the whole thing that they bring. And so I think that to my daughter's frustration, it's a multi-layered issue of why it is the way it is. What we experienced was trauma. We experienced the trauma of getting a phone call, and then when we got to engage with the establishment, when we got to engage with the medical facility, when we had to engage with the police, and all the way down to when we engaged with the media. What we experienced was the trauma initially of getting a phone call hearing that for no reason at all your grandson was shot. We're not going to tell you who shot him, how he got shot, where he got shot, what was the final cause of death. It's like a conveyor belt system that they have, and we're just a family that was introduced to it, and we wasn't the family that they used to dealing with, but they've been so desensitized that they treated us that way. And so it is a frustration that it makes me think about. It makes me think about what Nadisha was saying. Not take money from the police, but defund the police. Give the resources to other organizations that can come alongside of them and help. Because if we had that, this experience that we experienced, there's no way that this is okay for people if a family member get murdered, that this is the way that the system is supposed to treat you after they got murdered.
Right. Can I just say, as far as the whole defund the police, another thing that I don't like is, even with the media, was it any they pretty much want you to say something like, if anybody knows any information, please come forward. My thing is, that is not my job. So when you talk in terms of defund the police, you know what you should do? You get cameras. Take a little bit of budget, get cameras everywhere, because we do live in a no snitch community. And I mean, look how easy it is to kill somebody and get away with it. I would be afraid to tell if I knew something too, because you don't feel protected. So instead of you trying to blame it on the community, nobody's coming forward, nobody has no witnesses, invest in cameras. Philadelphia is riddled with gun violence. They know the areas that is happening in. Use your resources, get better surveillance. Because I was talking to my dad. Guess what happens if you run a red light on certain streets?
Right away. Oh, I'm telling you, you got to
listen. I'm talking about a crystal clear picture of your car, running through, passing, going. You to the point you can't fight it if you wanted to. You understand what I'm saying? And that's because you ran a red light. But if somebody's kid was shot down on the streets and murdered, all you got is, oh, nobody didn't say anything. So we can't solve your murder because nobody is saying anything. Even people with Ring doorbell cameras, don't make people feel like they got to say something, because that's in our community. Subpoena their Ring camera. You have a Ring doorbell camera. It is the law for you to subpoena the footage for the camera. It shouldn't be a choice. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So that irritates me too. They want the public to do their job. I'm a taxpayer. My taxes already paying you to do your job. My job is to raise my kid right.
Yeah, gotcha, and you did it. Hold on one second. Hold on 1 second. Let me take a quick break, and then we'll be right back, because I talked to Councilmember Clark, Curtis Jones, about this very thing that Nadisha is talking about. And I asked about those cameras, and I said, if the cameras on my property can see the irises of your eyes, what in the Sam Hill are we missing in the city of Philadelphia? There are cameras everywhere. Are they working, not working? What's going on? So I'm glad we're having this conversation. Hold on 1 second. Let me take a quick break, and then we're going to come back, okay? You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. Yes, I'm hot. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Hi, this is John.
Hi, this is Juanita, owners of JD's Auto Body and Painting. We're located at 6300 Wayne Avenue, right there at the intersection of Wayne and Washington Lane.
We really like to thank all you WURD listeners for the support that you've given our business, and we really hope to see you in the future.
JD, tell them about our products and services we have.
We have a new state-of-the-art paint shop along with our body shop and detail shop. We can help you with the dents and scratches from the winter season.
Come to JD's Auto Body and Painting. Come on out and check us out. We're still honoring that WURD 10% discount. Give us a call, 215-848-5949. Again, 215-848-5949.
Thanks again for supporting our business. We really appreciate you.
See you at JD's Auto Body and Painting.
Hey, WURD family, Reverend Leroy with a boss good recommendation for Clark Roofing. I found them to be a solid business, honest, dependable, fast, and clean workers. Mr. Clark stands by his work. Call him at 215-365-7663.
Call Clark Roofing and ask for a second-generation master roofer, Calvin Clark. Clark Roofing professionally installs a variety of roofing systems for your home or businesses. Call Clark Roofing at 215-365-7663 or visit their website
at clarkroofingpa.com. Tune into Reality Check, hosted by Charles Ellison, Wednesdays at noon for Tech Life Steph and the latest digital tips of the week. Brought to you by Comcast.
The Black Words Book Club.
WURD Radio's new monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. For April, WURD Radio is partnering with the Free Library of Philadelphia and showcasing their pick for its annual citywide reading program, One Book, One Philadelphia, entitled The Tradition by Jericho Brown. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it, Tuesday, April 13th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on wordradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, we have on the line Nadisha Boyd, who is the mother of Antonia Walker Jr., 15-year-old who was gunned down in the city of Philadelphia a little bit over a week ago, and he was just funeralized. They just buried him on Saturday, and his grandfather, Martin Boyd, and his uncle, Martin Boyd. And so this family is on here with me discussing all the tragedies, all the things that went wrong from the hospital where no one really spoke to them. They felt like they were in a conveyor belt, to the police department who, you know, took them, I think it was 2 days ago before they actually heard from someone in the police department, and that was only because they had some pull in the city, which is crazy to me. And then, you know, to, you know, the media who just reported this 15-year-old was dead. And in fact, this morning, this afternoon when I got on the air, I spoke of this. You know, if you're going to write these stories about the victims, don't just write of them as another statistic. Talk about who they were. They meant something to someone, right? These are people who will not have children and have a future. And there's a generation that was coming behind them that will no longer be there, that was snuffed out. And we have to do better. We have to be less desensitized. Mr. Boyd Sr., talk to us about what you learned now when someone reached out to your daughter through a fake Instagram page. If you can, talk about it.
So the way the culture has a way of generating information, and it's not trustworthy of the police because of 2 reasons. One, they don't want to deal with the police, and the second, they don't want to suffer the repercussions of violating these social norms that's in that environment. So, but some people have compassion, and so a person created a fake Instagram page and then sent over the details. I'm talking about literally the details. We won't say names of it, but sent over the details of the crime, the people that did it, where they stayed, all of that. And I talked to you earlier today, and I told you that a friend of mine's son was murdered, and he somehow, maybe it was the same way we got, I'm not sure, but he had gathered the information. In other words, he did the police job for them. Then he gave the information to the police. And the police didn't act on the information until this person had created, he had committed 3 other murders before they acted on the information. So prayerfully, that don't happen in this instance. We forwarded this information to the detectives, but it's hard to, to do that with any kind of confidence, because you just, like what kind of B12 shot do they need to be motivated to do their job? And I get it. Maybe you was a cop. Maybe you got burnt out. And getting burnt out as a police officer when you get in the check and you realize that you get this cold case stuff, put it on the shelf and still get your check. This is a gut check. And I'm telling you that as tragic as it is, I know for me and my family, we're committed to making sure people don't have to relive the experience we lived, because the experience we lived it was negative, it hurt, it's hurtful. On top of the fact you got to deal with the loss of your family member through a senseless act of violence. Then you have to deal with the on top of that, the repercussions of dealing with a system that had no sensitivity at all.
Uncle Martin, what do you want people to know about your nephew? How do you want people to remember him?
My nephew, he was he was special. He was special. He was smart. He was very, very smart. He was very smart. What I want people to know about my nephew is that he actually understood, and I learned this from my sister, that he understood life, the fullness of it, and he also understood death. I remember when his grandma passed, and I was talking to my sister, like, you know, how's he holding up? And I don't think he cried. Like he just was like light years, and he was like 50 in a 15-year-old body. And just the way how he processed stuff, the way how he think, the way his whole entire existence was just next level, never seen before. And I just want him to be remembered as the legend that he is, because he was indeed a 15-year-old legend. That's he mentally, physically, intellectually, he was special.
Yeah, thank you. Nadisha, what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, it just was, it just his brain, like, you know, I tell people it'll take me a lifetime to catch up with his thoughts outside of the gruesome way he left the world. He was way too advanced. I mean, he just was down. He would download you with so much information that it's like, okay, wait. You know, he loved Elon Musk. It's like, Mom, where's Elon Musk from? I'm like, I don't know, Philippine, Africa, Mom. He's African. Elon Musk is African. He's coming out with a Neuralink. Do you want the Neuralink? Give me the thing. And you know, I'm just like, he just was just so smart, and he knew that he was smarter than me. He was undebatable. You cannot give the debate a 6 month. Because he was just, he was special. I'm sorry, I can't hear.
We can't hear you.
Oh?
Yeah, okay.
You can't hear
Got
me
it
now?
now. Yes.
Okay. What do you want everybody to know about your grandson, sir?
I want them to know that my grandson was special, and that he lived a power-packed life, short 15 years. He was the kind of person that thought about everything, super compassionate, humble, wouldn't hurt a fly. These are the reasons why it hurt so bad that he became a vegetarian, because he just wasn't into harming people, and he believed in his higher conscience. He believed in his passion. He was just the overall. Now, no kid is the best kid, but I'm telling you that he was one of God's truly gifts to us, and nobody is indispensable. Everybody's going to leave, and life is going to continue to go on. But we do have people that are irreplaceable, and my grandson was irreplaceable.
I want to thank all of you, Martin Boyd, Nadisha Boyd. Thank you all so much for sharing Antonio with us. I hope people on Facebook are losing their minds. They're just like, people need to hear these stories, right? He's no longer a statistic, and that is what's important. That was what was important to me. And so I'm going to follow up with you. I'm actually going to write this story. I'm not just interviewing you here on the radio. I'm going to write his story. So I'm going to follow up with you all to get the details that I need to put in this story so that more people can hear about who Antonio is, okay? Thank you all so much for joining us, and I appreciate you, and my heartfelt condolences to all of you. I'm giving you the biggest hugs that I can in these COVID streets, and Nadisha, I'm gonna stay in touch with you, okay? If that's okay.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Love to all of you. Have a good one, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, that was not easy. That was not easy. So I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to come back. I'll take George when I come back. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Enterprise Exterminators, located 4943 Wayne Avenue, specializing in lantern flies, termites, bed bugs, fleas, mice, and roaches. Do-it-yourself kits are available. Call now, 215-849-7070.
The WURD Radio Newsletter.
Keeping you informed, engaged, and connected.
Sign up by visiting WURDradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on WURD Radio. Messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese, exclusive articles and multimedia content, and resources.
Stay informed
with the WURD Radio Newsletter.
You probably heard it before, but one of the best ways to stay safe from COVID is by avoiding crowds. That's better. Also, when you're out in public, make sure you stay 6 feet away from strangers or people you don't live with. It's okay to say, "Can I have some space, please?"
Well, it's going to be a beautiful sunny day today, and we can expect much.
If you're gonna have a get-together with friends and family, have it outside. And remember to keep those 6 feet of social distance. And last but not least, wear a mask that covers your nose and mouth with no gaps. They slow the spread of COVID or new forms of the virus called variants. And make sure you get your vaccine when it's your turn. We're all out here trying our best, and it's making a difference. We just gotta keep it up. We can do this.
To learn more about slowing the spread, visit cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Independent Black Media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, I had on the line the parents, the mother, grandfather, and uncle of Antonio Walker Jr., who was gunned down at the age of 15 a little bit over a week ago, and is a part of now the statistic, the number in Philadelphia of people who have died since the year has begun. I am determined as a media person, as a journalist, to make sure that we put some faces, names, and stories to these statistics that we always keep pushing out here, that hopefully that when you see this, we start to turn more folks in, start to have the kinds of conversations that we need to have with the police. George, are you there?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am, Andrea, and that was one of the best guests you had in a long time. And what you got to realize is I thought it was me talking. I mean, everything they said was true. I mean, and for them, if they said, listen, understand this here. You can't take it out on the police. Take it out on their boss, you know, because all this stuff comes from the top on down. And they're not willing to risk their job or their, you know, pension or anything because they're not doing this right or that right. It's called overlooking. They got a thing where as though they can go to the hospital and tell the police, the police can tell the hospital, listen, we've got an ongoing investigation of this, that, and the other, and we need you to hold off on explaining what happened. Mm-hmm. It's a whole lot of factors that play into a whole lot of things that people have no idea. Mm-hmm. It's a shame. You can say it shouldn't be, but should be, ought to be, and could be. Hey, it's what it is. It's what they say.
George, let me ask you this, because it feels like we spend so much time talking over each other in this city, right? If what you're saying is true, that police officers are overlooking things because they're feeling unheard or they're feeling that they'd lose their jobs for whatever the reason, why are we not coming to the table to figure out how we fix this so that we can start to solve these crimes and get these cops what they need in the streets?
Andre, let me ask you a question. If your boss tell you not to do something, do you do it? The answer is no. I mean, that's what you're a cop. If your boss tell you leave it alone, you leave it alone. Period. I don't care how you feel. It doesn't matter. Your feelings is out of the question when it comes to your job. Period. That's just it's at the point, believe me, like I say, you got some adults who are playing children's games, but it's a dangerous game because you're playing playing with people's lives. The only difference is black lives that they're playing with, not any other people's lives.
Right.
So you can say what you want. They can act any way they want. At the end of the day, they're going to show you who's in charge. And until those fools, like I say, make men, it ain't going to stop. It ain't going to stop. Sunday, just of Sunday, they're laughing at these extorted type preachers talking about they're going to get $100 million out of private industry for this violence. It ain't about that. It ain't if the cops want to stop violence, Andrea, they can. And they will. When the right time comes, watch how fast all this crap cut down. All these people doing this killing, thinking they're getting away with it, shootings and thinking they're getting away with it. It's going to take them 2 weeks to lock them all up. Period. People are going to beg. They're going to beg the police, stop this. Please stop all this killing. Stop it. You know, it's going to happen. But when? When? We can talk to you blue in the face. It don't make no difference. It don't control anything.
Yeah, George. I thank you so much. I'm not ignoring you. I hear you. We are going to talk soon, though.
Let me say this here, Andrea. Thanks to your show, that the Philadelphia correctional officers listen. They voted their president out. You know why? Their president was in the with yes. They listened to your show, and when I brought it up and explained it, they heard it very clearly. They understood exactly what I was saying. They didn't know, but they had an idea. He lost the election. His whole board lost except 2 people. They got a whole nother regime in there. Okay? Now, when you say Blanche, you know, the prison commissioner, listen, she basically, she don't listen to all that stuff. She don't get caught up in what the Kenny administration say. She try to run the prison with what she has. Now, take my word, some people heads gonna roll on that there because you supposed to have somebody in that booth 24 hours a day. You can't, if you need to even go to the bathroom, you have to get a relief. Somebody has to come in and relief. Okay, that thing wasn't supposed to stay up. You can't go on prison grounds. There's too many factors that play into that because Kenny, there, his chief of staff, and the manager, they was all up there almost all day. They wanted answers. So somebody's going to get fired on that there. But you have to understand how things are done and how you get things undone.
Yes.
I mean, that was crazy. And that's to show you how much respect they have for law or anything, law enforcement, that they go to the prison. Who ever heard of some craziness like that?
It's getting crazy. I know.
You at least wait till they get to where they're going to go.
Oh, I know. Thank you, George. Thank you, honey. I got to take this next step.
Just watch how all this foolishness play out because you got grown men who want to play games.
All right. Thank you, my brother. It's always a pleasure talking to you, okay? All right. Oh, I need a breath of fresh air. This is, whew. So I'm just going to pivot right now and talk to someone that I love and I can see her face. Joss Duncan is a multimedia producer, documentary filmmaker, and influential thought leader with over 15 years of experience in media and tech production and social impact storytelling. Joss is the founder of Love Now Media, an empathy-centered media company that uses storytelling to advocate for social justice and wellness, and Love Now LLC, an empathy-driven solutions agency that partners with clients to discover, define, and distribute media and technology products. All right, so listen, I'm not gonna stop reading that. And hi, Jess. You're muted.
Hello, Andrea.
Hi, sweetie. And so, you know, I asked to speak to you in Women's History Month because I believe you are someone who has been impacting people everywhere, but you've been so quietly in the background. No one really knows anything about my Joss Duncan. Now, she used to work at WURD, but let's just get it all out in the open so that folks don't wonder, is that the same Joss Duncan? So tell folks what you used to do at WURD and what you're doing now.
So I've had Love Now Media since 2016 and really looked up to Sarah Lomax Reese. Loved the way she ran WURD, loved everything she represented. And when she invited me to be a part of the WURD team as the program director back in 2018, I could not turn down the offer. And so I was the program director for about a year and a few months. And then I shifted to director of product management for a few months. But this year, with the height of, COVID, the racial reckoning and everything that's been going on, I felt like I just really needed to return to my love work. This work has been really important to me. And I think the timing for the work that I've been doing, I think people get it now even more than they did back in 2016 when I started.
Yeah, so tell people a little bit about Love Now Media and what is it that you've been pushing out, because we need every bit of what you're getting ready to do and what you have been doing, right? We're desensitized, we are anxiety ridden, we just don't know where to turn. And I was telling folks last week and the week before how I would call you. I did. Your whole name was blowing up here. I said, listen, I called Josh in September. I was like, oh, I can't do this. This is and you made me breathe and you walked me through it. And so tell people what Love Now Media does and what's your latest project that you're working on.
So Love Now Media is an empathy-centered media company. And what I mean by that is we really focus on helping people to feel and to connect. I noticed back in 2016, really it was more like in 2015, I had another company, Griot Works, and we focused on Black storytelling. So, I was out in the trenches doing a lot of community-centered work, and I realized that we were in pain. And I was personally in pain, and I realized that I could not continue to show up full of rage and fire with a desire to change without taking care of myself. So I realized then what I think a lot of people have realized in the last, 12 months. And so I made a pivot, and I said, look, I want to focus on telling stories that really show the love and the connection within the work towards social justice. So oftentimes when I say I do love work, people think it's soft. They think I'm turning away from the work that needs to be done to dismantle racism, and that's not the case. What I'm saying is that we will not be able to sustain ourselves on rage alone, on anger alone. We have to really be strong. We have to be level-headed. We have to have a clear mind in order to really think strategically about how to address the systemic issues that we're dealing with today. So Love Now Media focuses on, the soft parts within that work. But we're very, woke. we're very aware of the need to address hard issues. We just look for the soft lines in between.
So speaking of soft lines in between, you are aware of the intense violence that has been happening across the city. And as a part of the work that we're doing here on The Source, I just got sick of, another statistic. So I just interviewed the family of a young man that was shot and killed about a week ago, Antonio Walker Jr., and in an effort to humanize him. I'd love for you to interview them, and here is why. His mother got on here and she said he was an honor student, 15 years old, became a vegetarian. Just the story about him started to emerge over the 15-year-old shot and killed in such and such a part of Philadelphia. They said they were not treated well by the hospital. No one told them what happened to him. No one from the police department called. You know what I mean? And so is there a way for, and I don't want to throw another project on your lap, but it just seems that there's a space here to fill the hole of the desensitization. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
There's so much desensitivity happening here in the city. Fill the hole and tell the stories. Interview some of these families so that we can see who these young people were. These are generations that we're losing, right? And to your point, Joss, the anxiety, the depression, the anger that builds up is something that I think we are not able to sustain, and we're not going to be able to manage over periods of time. And I think it's also causing us to, our cortisol levels go up, we're gaining weight, right? We're not sleeping. Even if we're eating like a bird, we're still gaining weight because we're not correlating the trauma with the cortisol levels. It's just, ooh, help me, Joss. Yeah. It's just a lot. It's a lot, right? And so what are you working on now? That would be able to help that we can be a part of, or that people, if anyone's interested in, can call you and reach out to you?
So there are a few ways that the public can engage right now. One is we have started publishing news stories. So today we posted some mental health resources, free classes that people can take. It's not always easy to find a therapist, and therapy can be expensive. So we put out a few free courses that are online that people can take to kind of help with starting to cope and really get in touch with their feelings. We also do call for stories. We like to create spaces for people to tell their own stories. It's one thing for me to be, you know, a filmmaker and a media professional and a writer, a journalist, but it's another thing for people to feel empowered with telling their own stories in their own voice and having a place for that work to be published. So we do quarterly publications. We call it Little Love Stories. And we invite the public to submit stories based on different themes, and then we put those out. There are also some of those stories on our website. One of the things I'm really excited about is a new workshop series that we're starting for the public called Lunch and Love. So I've always been a fan of the lunch and learn. You know, you come together for an hour, you learn a new skill, you kind of come out feeling like you're able to apply something new to your workplace. And so we're going to do these public lunch and love workshops every other Thursday starting April 8th. And so if you know of anybody who is just really trying to navigate what's going on and wants to connect with other people, we're going to do these virtual workshops. And so the first one is going to be on defining love. We'll have a different theme for every workshop. And I think it's really important for us to talk about how we're defining love right now, especially as we're talking about, one, violence, two, just the differences and the tensions between some of our different cultures, like as, you know, Black people are working to stand in solidarity with the Asian community. You know, there are a lot of issues that are coming up about the history between these two cultural groups, right? So if us conducting this workshop, defining love, sometimes we've defined love based on things that aren't serving us, you know, as a society, as groups of people who are trying to work together. So we're going to create some opportunities for people to break that stuff down and then to rebuild up the definitions of love that work to serve where we're going, because this pandemic has literally put us in a position where we are creating our future. A lot of us are looking to rely on old things, things that we think should have worked, or the civil rights movement, or we're looking far back in history, but no, we have to be futurists right now. So we have to tap into something else. And this is why I'm such a big advocate of like meditation and visualization, because that's what's going to give us access to new information so that we can start to create what's next. We've never seen anything like this. And we've never seen anything like what we're going to create for the future. So we have to be very intentional, and like we can't hold on to the stuff we've been holding on to for decades and centuries. We have to let some of that stuff go in order to rework some of the things that we're dealing with today.
You know, you said something that struck me. You talked about futurists. I met a futurist who happened to be Jamaican from Washington, D.C. She was a nationally known futurist, and she walked us through, thank God for Susan Taylor and the National Cares Mentoring Movement. This was about 3 years ago. She sat through a whole day session with us, and she walked us through planning into the future for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, right? So that as we walked the path from day to day, we understood where we were going. Right? What would it look like? How can we pivot when we need to pivot? Part of what I think is happening to us in our communities is that the trauma is so prevalent, right? We're just trying to figure out day by day. As a direct result of that woman, and I mean, we've been doing this for a while now, we have these vision boards or vision statements, right? And so I talked to them on WURD, the listening audience, about creating vision statements and putting them on your wall, putting them on your bathroom mirror, putting them on your headboard. There you go, right? But I have these huge sheets. My husband's like, people walk into this house, they're going to think I didn't care, right? Because for me, my vision statements had to be large, and I had to see them walking in and out of the door. And so you literally start to create the future that you want by envisioning it, right? Even if, and I tell folks all the time, don't worry if people think it's crazy and it's never going to happen. I didn't think I was going to be out in LA for the red carpet event, but I saw it. Right? I envisioned it. I said to myself 3 years ago, I'm going out there to do that. And so that's what we did. And so, you know, when you talk about futurists, conversations. Is that one of those that you're going to have with Love Now Media in your Lunch and Love?
Well, I am an Afrofuturist. Okay, I have been for a long time. So, so if you Google, my name and Griot Works, you'll see I've done like Afrofuturist plays and all kinds of stories, because I truly believe that that as Black people, as African people, it is a part of our culture. Yes. To really acknowledge the spirit, to acknowledge our ability to move through different portals, all of that. And so as a storyteller, I've studied traditional folklore and folk tales, and futurism is all in that. So I believe that, like, it's a part of, how I operate. Yes. With that said, I think it's one thing for us to do individual meditations, manifestations, doing vision boards and all of that. But what I'm going to be focusing on with Love Now Media is doing that as a community. Yes. What do we want our communities to look like? What do we want our work teams to look like? We should have vision boards for all of those things. Yes. So when we think about our city, when we think about our family, the family should have a vision board. Because I think, this age of social media has set us, we've been so focused on our own individual successes that we've forgotten how to come together and create a vision that includes everyone, including the children. Yes. The children are futurists. And we have to empower them with places for their voices to be heard. And we have to consider what it is they see as a part of our communal vision. So that's what Love Now Media will be working on. That's one of the things. One of the biggest projects we're actually working on is a documentary series called Just Love Stories. And so I'm actually working with 8 filmmakers from Philadelphia, and each of them is directing an episode of a love story that is focused on love and justice. So in June, you'll be hearing more about that. Maybe you'll have me back.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Wow. This is so good. I always felt like you were that person in the background that people needed to know a whole lot more about, and I'm so glad I had the opportunity to highlight you today as a part of Women's History Month, because there's something in your spirit that speaks to people even when you don't open your mouth. Right?
Thank you.
And whatever traumas you had been dealing with, whatever spaces you were in, you clearly worked on yourself, because it now emanates from you, in terms of being a calming presence for people who may need that calm and support. And so, I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
And I want us to follow up, right? So when you start to launch the Just Love Stories and the Lunch and Love stories, sessions on April 8th, please come back and tell us how and tell people how they can reach you if they want to submit or donate.
Yeah, so our website is lovenowmedia.com. You can submit a story there. You can donate there. We have the Lunch and Love workshops posted on all of our social media. So if you go to Instagram, there's a link. You know how there's a link in bio? You can find the link. Everything is happening through Ticket Leap. So you can get your tickets for that now, register for that now. And we'll be doing that workshop on April 8th. And we'll keep you posted, through our social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that.
And so I'm assuming it all starts at noon?
Yes, it starts at noon. It's from noon to 1. And it's Love Now Media on all social platforms, and lovenowmedia.com for our website.
Josh Duncan, thank you. It's so nice to actually turn the tables and interview you for a change, huh?
Thank you. I think you do amazing work, so it's nice to be on WURD as a guest, and definitely nice to be on your show. And thanks also to Brianna and Mike, your awesome producers.
Yes, and for those of you who wondering how I got to WURD, you're looking at her. Had it not been for Miss Duncan, you all would have not heard. You are listening to the source. I'm just letting you know. She found me and said, I think you would make a great fit here, and has worked with me and made it a great space to hang out, and she gave me lots of room to grow and to challenge myself as I was moving forward in that first year. So my heart, love you, Josh. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Love you too, Andrea.
And
all right, have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Lord. Lord. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. I think I have worn myself out mentally today. We will be right back after these messages.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Want the latest in Word swag?
Check out the shop tab on WURDradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WURDradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black.
Talk Media.
The Black Words Book Club. WURD Radio's new monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. For April, WURD Radio is partnering with the Free Library of Philadelphia and showcasing their pick for its annual citywide reading program, One Book, One Philadelphia, entitled The Tradition by Jericho Brown. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, April 13th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit WURDradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. So, listen. Unless you were living under a rock somewhere, then you understood that there was a shooting in Georgia recently, and we now have nationwide protests supporting Asian Americans, which are unfolding after the recent attacks. If in the last year or so, Asian Americans have been reaching out to the federal government, asking them for support because the previous president kept calling them, saying that they were the ones that created the virus from China, and, they were being attacked in the streets. And while we would see the media, the national and local news media report some of these things ad hoc nowhere did it become more prevalent than when we had the shooting. So I'm going to read this story briefly to you from the Washington Post. And it was written by Sarah Kaplan and Timothy Bella, Kim Bellware, and Amy B. Wang. March 20th was when it was written. Getting the gun was as simple as going to a local sporting goods store. Passing the background check took a matter of minutes. Then it was a short drive to Young's Asians Massage, where surveillance video obtained by the Washington Post shows the suspect spent more than an hour before opening fire. Within hours of purchasing the handgun Tuesday, police say Robert Aaron Long, a white man, had shot and killed 8 people, 6 of them of Asian descent, and all but 1 of them women. Demonstrations unfolded across the country Saturday as activists and officials linked the massacre in Atlanta to a surge in violence against Asian Americans amid the COVID-19 pandemic. In San Francisco's Chinatown, children drew chalk butterflies on sidewalks to symbolize the people killed. In Atlanta, Senator Raphael G. Warnock issued a call for solidarity. To my Asian sisters and brothers, he said, we see you, and more important, we are going to stand with you. Meanwhile, a growing chorus of advocates has called for a renewed federal effort to fight gun violence, arguing that amid rising racism, lax gun laws make it too easy for someone to act on their hate. The victims, Soon Chung Park, Hyung Jung Grant, Sancha Kim, Young I-Yu, Delana Ashley Yon, Zai Tan, Dio Fang, and Paul Andre Michels ranged in age from 33 to 74. I apologize if I butchered any of these names because sometimes I can't get it all together, but my heart was in the right place. They included a business executive 2 days from her 50th birthday, a single mother striving to support her sons, an Army veteran, a woman who loved to dance. I love it. Now see how the media wrote this story and humanized these victims, right? And so, yet activists say that the attacks fit a pattern of racism and misogyny directed at Asian American women, as well as a broader trend of hate-fueled violence. I'm going to stop right there and introduce you to Ali Gobi, who apprenticed under esteemed, who is Ali? Ali, now you know I cannot pronounce this person's name. How are you?
So good, how are you?
So
that's amazing.
Let me just stop right there and not make myself crazy. I asked Ali to come on the air because I went on Facebook. You know, I have a huge Facebook platform. So I go on Facebook and I said, so let me see if I get this straight. This man killed 8 people, and the police captain comes on the news and says this. Well, he was just having a bad day, and this was not a hate crime. And then I find out that he was a part of a group called the Incels. That was Ali?
So, can I have a moment to clarify all of that after I've done some research? Yes. So I can't directly say that he was part of a group which is often referred to. They self-identify as incels, which is involuntary celibate. And that is predominantly a group of younger white men, but they range all ages and backgrounds. But they feel that women are basically the source of all of their problems. It's a pretty, it's a pretty strong accusation. Basically, our bodies, they're entitled to our bodies, and that feminism is sort of this scourge that is directly at the expense of men and men's development. And so they really feel like we deserve to be put in our place.
So how did they get here? Did they drop off a banana tree? Like, cause you can't be born without coming through a woman, unless I am missing something somewhere, right?
Absolutely.
So how did they get from being born of a woman to being involuntary celibate and believing that women are the root of their problems? And they what now?
So this is a good way to seg into what I actually do know about the gunman, which is that he was part of several rounds of treatment in an evangelical center for what they would deem as a sex addiction. And now that's in the DSM-5 as a treatable disorder. I think it was put in 2019. But the definition that evangelical churches use is quite extreme, to the point of, if you masturbate, you are transgressing. If you have premarital sex, you're transgressing. And all respect to people who are in religions and really abide by their tenets and feel empowered by them. However, in this instance, we have to think about how this type of sexual repression affects young minds. And I think in the incel community, this is one of the bigger problems is, men are seeing these hypersexualized visions of women, and they're blaming them for the temptation. And as we saw, that was what we got sort of broken telephone from Long in his testimonial to a police officer, which, by the way, has a Facebook page where he sells racist, anti-Asian t-shirts.
Which was the police captain. He has a Facebook page that had all sorts of anti-Asian racism on his page. Okay.
Yes. So, I don't want to detract from the racist element of this story at all, because, it's the hypersexualization, particularly of Asian women, that led them to be targets here. And that in general is the problem with misogyny within the incel community. But when Asian women are hypersexualized in this way, we don't see them as having agency. We see them as bodies. Their labor is just that. They're not people anymore. And that's what made it so easy for him to target particularly Asian women at this time, because it's just like they're the source of my problems, right? I think what I'd like to see is a greater conversation around how religion in this country is impacting that, is creating some of that.
So
I'm a
let's talk
deeply
about it.
spiritual
Let's
person.
talk about it. Let's talk. And listen, you talking to mother. Let's talk about how religion is creating some of this stuff as you see it, right? So what are your thoughts around that? And it's interesting that you brought that up, Ali, because I had to laugh the other day. There's still churches where, you know, a woman cannot wear makeup to church. They have to wear long dresses with stockings, and I'm not just talking about in the white community. It's happening everywhere, right?
Yeah.
There's still churches where pastors are treated godlike, that women should know their places. And so what are your thoughts around the role that the church plays in some of what we saw taking place in Atlanta in the shooting?
Well, Long, the gunman, as I said, he was, I think, treated 2 or 3 times in an inpatient facility for what he perceived as a sex addiction, as described to him by his youth pastor. And when the church was questioned about this event, you know, there was no responsibility whatsoever. Like, oh, heck, he was a sweet boy. How could this have happened? And I mean, he has a long history of indoctrination. You know, when he was 19 years old, he went to stay overnight with a girlfriend. And his parents were aware of this. He was living at home at the time, but they disagreed with it, and they phoned the police and filed a missing persons report. Right? So they were so concerned about premarital sexual activity that, you know, they wanted to have the police involved too. Of course, eventually we're just like, well, we're going to say this is a missing motorist, because obviously if you know his whereabouts, it's not a missing person. But it just really draws a connection between this depiction of sexuality and then the way not only women are looked at, but women who sell sexual services.
Right.
And we don't, go ahead.
Because I'm listening to you. So not only did he target Asian women, though, because he could have targeted other women. So he thought the Asian women were easier targets, clearly, A. But there's also this severe anti-Asian sentiment in this country right now that we cannot overlook. So where's the intersection here, right, in all of this?
We need to look at Asian massage parlors specifically, and there are quite a number of advocacy groups working to protect workers who work at Asian spas. Now, the perception publicly is that an Asian massage parlor would automatically offer sexual services. That is not true. It is an unfortunate assumption.
Stereotype,
yes. Yep. However, you know, it's fairly prevalent. And when, as a massage therapist myself, I have to kind of be aware of what's going on in the community within massage, because since Trump's executive order on Sesta Fosta, so this anti-trafficking law, there's been a lot more violence, not only in the sex work community and at Asian massage parlors, but I also get a lot more phone calls for sexual services.
Wow.
And so since that,
say that again, Ali? You get a lot of calls about what?
I will get occasional texts and phone calls soliciting sexual services. There are code words. People are not always upfront about what they want. Right. And this has been common in the massage industry over. And like I said, with Asian massage parlors, people just assume that they're sexual services. So as you can imagine, when that anti-trafficking law was passed and everything was forced underground, so what I mean by that is the online pages where people could meet to negotiate with legitimate consensual sex workers. When that disappeared, a lot more violence began happening at these Asian massage parlors because of that reputation. And because of the reputation, you're also looking at workers who are often, they're immigrating here. They may not have legal status yet. And so often, if they are experiencing violence, whether or not they participate in sex work, they're being targeted because people feel like they're entitled to their bodies, clearly. But whether or not they're participating, they're still victims of these crimes. And something, I don't know if I was looking at the stats for how much that the violence has increased. I can't get anything realistic because again, they're not allowed to report.
Right, and the anti-Asian sentiment has increased dramatically. They have been reporting. They have been saying, "I was targeted over here in New York. I was targeted over here at such and such a place. I was targeted," and no one seemed to correlate or put it all together so that we could see. So, what do you think, in your opinion, the anti-Asian sentiment? Where did it come from, in your opinion?
I think it's the hypersexualization of Asian women.
So you're saying the anti-Asian sentiment did not, in your opinion, did
not... sorry. Okay. You're talking about right now in COVID.
Yes.
It's
seems
coming.
To have gotten worse.
I mean, it's a part of the whole disinfo movement around COVID-19, right? Everyone wants someone to blame. Right. And I think that sentiment that it was specifically China's fault wasn't really in the common ethos until the former president spoke of it. You know, he often would invoke the China virus. I mean, even, last month, I live in Roxborough, Manioc area. So, you know, one of our main streets, not just Main Street or Manioc, but Ridge Ave, Lenny's Sandwich Shop. They advertised something they called a COVID mac and cheese, which was a mac and cheese dish served with a Chinese chili sauce.
You are kidding me.
No, this happened here, right here. So this is Asian sentiment is happening in Philly as well. I mean, it's a big problem. And luckily our community rallied against it. Right. I'm not going to say that it was overwhelming. I'm in a really awful local Facebook group that we have a big problem with racism. And so there's a lot of people who didn't understand it at all. But there were quite a few of us there calling Lenny's and demanding that they take that item off the menu, and they did. They didn't see any reason to apologize for it. They didn't think they'd done anything wrong. They just didn't want the bad press. So if you ask me where the anti-Asian sentiment has come from, I think it's definitely this idea that China was at fault, but it's also because of our failure in leadership in the United States under President Trump, right? You know, I'm actually from Canada originally, and I was floored last year when some of my family members came forward to me who had previously just not understood racism whatsoever. And our prime minister, the leader of our country, decided to come forward and talk about racism and be real about it. And all of a sudden, family members who had no idea about these issues came forward and were apologizing for using slogans like "All Lives Matter." And it made me realize the profound impact that leadership has. And that can have just as profound an impact when you are promoting awful ideas, right? And so, I mean, I could almost squarely lay the blame at President Trump's feet.
But you know what? So here's the thing, though. For those of us who have been really digging deeply into where this is coming from, this started way before President Trump, right?
Yes,
he was just the one that just kind of said, well, you know, we've been talking about it in the background since Jesus was a boy, and in order for me to become president, I'm just going to put it all out there and let everybody know what we all have been talking about. There have been groups that have targeted white people in this country by telling them, this is what's going on. These people are taking over. Black folks can't do anything with themselves. Black folks are not right. You are the ones that are supposed to take over this country. And so there's this not only anti-Asian sentiment, there's an anti-people of color sentiment, right?
Yeah.
And so what, in your opinion, what do we need to do now to support the Asian community? Because here's the other thing that I'm dealing with. Black folks who are like, well, the Asians never really cared. Do you see how crazy this is? Like there's this we just can't seem to pull together to do what needs to be done to support each other, right? There are black folks who say, look, when we were going through and we were saying Black Lives Matter, they didn't show up in the spaces for us, and now you want us to show up for them. So, you know, I'm going to take a quick break, and let's you and I kind of hash out where do we go from here. I mean, we got a couple of minutes, so not the whole lifetime, but let's kind of try and figure out where do we go from here to pull all of these folks together so we can make sure everyone's safe. Can you hold on 1 second, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages. I should have known.
Hey there, all you ashy folk. I got the solution for your ashy skin. Nubian K Essentials all natural body lotions at www.nubiankessentials.com. Also found at Hakeem's, 210 South 52nd Street, the Wayne Avenue Health Store, 5007 Wayne Avenue, and Cultural Exchange, 1450 Point Breeze Avenue. Or go to www.nubiankessentials.com and kiss your ashy skin goodbye.
Livelihood, WURD Radio's new initiative, connecting Black Philadelphians with jobs, entrepreneurship resources, small business development information, and financial literacy tools. Tune in to WURD Radio for our weekly livelihood segments and every weekday show. For a full schedule, visit wordradio.com/livelihood. For more information on livelihood, visit wordworks.com. That's WURDWORKS.com.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, I have on the line with me Ali Gobi, who we're discussing the anti-Asian sentiment in this country right now, the misogynistic behaviors towards women, specifically Asian women, and the sentiment, the intersectionality of hypersexualizing Asian women and COVID-19, where that all came together, and the anti-Asian sentiment has been one that has been wreaking havoc across the country, especially in the last year. And so before we went to break, I asked Ali, I said, how do we work together across these groups? We really don't have the answers. Let's just be clear. Ali and I don't have the answers. We're just trying to figure this out, right? But do you have any ideas, Ali? Like, for me, it's about talking about it, or finding the platform for us to say, listen, this is where we're coming from. This is where you're coming from. Support us as we support you. And I just don't, it's anti-woman, anti-Asian. It's just horrific. Where do we go from here in your estimation?
I mean, yeah, as you said, having the answers here is really difficult. It's been a long battle. But I mean, some of the positive things I've seen happen in my own life. I was telling you over the break that I came here about 10 years ago from Canada. I married into a Black and Latina family, and really didn't have any idea about racism. You know, I got snatched many times by my husband for like saying the wrong thing, and you know, just like not in public, or like, no, ooh, you need an education on that. That's not okay. And so what I quickly came to learn, because I didn't grow up in a lot of diversity, was that having the friendships and connections with people who didn't look like me was the most important thing, right? And talking to each other in a frank way, and being willing to listen. You know, I have had a problem also as a white person of taking up too much space, right? When we know that there's so much space that is not occupied by a large number of people of color in our communities. And so I really feel like it's the fostering of these friendships that's going to make the biggest difference. And I know one of the classic racist retorts is, but I have a Black friend. Right? But how deep is that relationship? Have you really listened to that person? Have you seen their pain? You know, I've had the privilege of listening to some of my husband's mother's stories from West Philly growing up. You know, being chased out of bowling alleys, being called the N-word relentlessly. And, you know, that's the stuff that really brought me to my knees and made me realize there was a problem. And just I wasn't particularly aware of the anti-Asian sentiment that has been really pervasive for much longer, as you pointed out, than even within COVID, but obviously amplified. It's been 70% worse, or 150%. It's an astronomical number. But until we're willing to listen to people's experiences, it doesn't get better. I mean, that's why the Lenny's issue, as I told you with the COVID mac and cheese dish, was such an impassable thing between, like, you know, the people on the side that didn't understand what the problem was, and us and our Asian community members who were saying they were harmed. You know, people weren't willing to listen to other people saying they were being harmed. Well, I don't get it, right? But how would you?
Right.
You know?
I almost lost a few white friends from 2016 to 2020. I love them dearly, but I actually got on a call with them after these most recent elections, and I said, listen, I'm exhausted. I need you all to hear us when we say we're exhausted. When we're telling you these things are going on, don't tell us all lives matter, right? Because I noticed the other day that after the insurrection with the police officers and the police officers that lost their lives, no one's talking about how these police officers' lives matter, and in fact, no one's trying to really uncover why these police officers died and what can be done to help them. So police officers' lives only matter when black folks are protesting about being killed. You know what I mean? There's this hypocrisy in this country that is so prevalent, right? And it's so steeped into the fabric of who we are that we can easily turn a blind eye when we choose to. Right?
Absolutely.
And so to hear you talk about the fact that you are learning and not taking up space means congratulate your husband, because you're one of my people too. So listen,
he worked hard.
Yeah, he did. Clearly he worked hard, because you clearly understand. I literally had to say to some of my white friends, you cannot talk about black and brown people as if you're saving their souls. If you did something for them, don't go, you know, I remember when I met them, they weren't able to do X, Y, and Z, and I came along and I saved them. You are not the white savior for these people. Like, I had to, and at first they were offended, but I was like, if you want to be friends with us, see how we're seeing you when you do that kind of stuff. You understand what I'm saying? And so those conversations are hard, but they're really necessary, Ali. They're really necessary, right? So the white folks that stayed around, our friendships deepened as a direct result, right? Because then they can call me and say, you know, Andrea, this happened, and this is what I was thinking. What are your thoughts? Versus this happened, and I believe this was the right thing because, and they start quoting data and everything else that comes along with it, taking up too much space, you know? So I can't thank you enough. You are wonderful. I love this conversation that we're having. But we need to, let's what else do you think white folks can do to help with the anti-Asian sentiment? I know, child. I know. See, I keep asking these questions like, but what else?
Like they're answers.
Yes.
I think people just need to educate themselves on the history of this. I think they need to look at where they are dehumanizing people, where they are not seeing people as humans. Because it was really easy for the police to completely dehumanize, as we saw the women victims in this crime, by saying, oh, this man was having a bad day.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I wanted to haul off and slap him from the television screen. Like, did you just get in a press conference? Thank God for Mayor Keisha Bottom. She was like, excuse me, there has been an anti-Asian sentiment here, and since we clearly don't know the optics of this case fully, we're not going to decide here in the press conference that he was having a bad day. But that's the way that we victimize, we make the perpetrators the victims, and then victimize the ones who were aggrieved.
Well, it's always the white perpetrator, of course, who is allowed to be victimized. I mean, this man was not even, they didn't need to shoot at him or anything. Wow.
Nothing. And had a whole narrative about him having a bad day. And it was his parents that turned him in because they noticed it was him, right? But it was probably from their indoctrination and I don't know this to be true, but based on what I've learned about them and the indoctrination that they had with him in church, they knew what was going on, and so they called and turned their son in. We are in some trying times. Do you hear me? And until we start to pay attention more and listen to each other more, things will not change. But it's folks like you that will be able to sit at the tables, you know, and I encourage folks all the time, when COVID is never going to be over, because listen, when there are ways for us to get back to dinner tables safely where we can sit and have conversations with each other, I always say to people, invite someone who does not look like you, that's not a part of your culture. Invite someone who you know, is different with you in ways, and then learn from them, not from a judgmental space, but really open your heart, not just your pots and your plates, but open up your hearts to learn from people, because all of us can be okay with people that looks like us, sounds like us, have the same kind of things that we do. But you're right, the relationships are very important. So I want to thank you. I know you said you weren't the authority on this, but when I listened to you, when I read what you wrote on Facebook, I said, yep, she needs to come on here, because I don't think anybody is really talking about the fact that he was a part of this incel group and what that meant, the indoctrination in the church. Why are Asian women so hypersexualized, and the anti-Asian sentiment that has grown in prevalence. And yo, if you run a restaurant and you have a dish, please think about what you're naming dishes, right? Like, think about those things. It's the insensitivity that we use. You shouldn't be naming anything COVID-19 anyway. I wouldn't want to eat it. So, Ali, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. My show is about to end, but you were wonderful. We'll catch up again soon, okay? Thank you.
Can't wait.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Oh, Lord, this country, we're coming to the end of another episode of The Source. I think I overloaded my brain today between, I think the greatest conversations I had was with Josh Duncan and with the president of Easter Seals, president and CEO of Easter Seals, where we found solutions for folks, and Nadira Branch. She, talking about addressing the tensions within black communities in the United States. You know, we're talking about 3 people, there was on the news the other day that 3 fully vaccinated people in Hawaii has now gotten COVID. Y'all, I'm trying to tell you, we still don't know. You have to remember that we're still trying to figure this out. Everything happened at the speed of sound, and so we don't even know if these vaccines are going to work completely, totally. And I just saw a thing that says AstraZeneca is only 79% effective. U.S. data shows vaccine effective for all adults. AstraZeneca reported Monday that its COVID-19 vaccine provided strong protection among all adults in a long-anticipated U.S. study. AstraZeneca said the vaccine was 79% effective overall at preventing symptomatic cases of COVID-19, including in older people, and that none of the study volunteers who were vaccinated were hospitalized or developed severe disease. We're fighting over these things. There was another report that says Pfizer was the most effective vaccine out of all of them. Like, man, listen. Whatever you decide to do, hear what I'm telling you. If you're getting vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you don't want to get vaccinated, that is totally up to you. What I'm asking you to do is to believe this. This virus is very real. The CEO of Texas Roadhouse committed suicide because he got COVID. This is a real story. There is a real story about this. He got COVID-19 and became a long hauler and had such horrible symptoms for such a long time. He took his own life. He's not the only one. There are people out here. I've read stories and listened to stories on MSNBC and CNN where people who were vibrant runners and ballet dancers can't walk now. Horrible headaches that are not going anywhere. Brain fog. All those things are happening at one time. So we know this stuff exists. Even if you think you're not going to die from it, here's what I'm asking you to do. Wash your diggity dang hands a lot. And not just putting some soap in it and rinsing it off. Wash your hands, because if you put soap on your hands and then rinse it right off in 10 seconds, and then put the soap back on your hands again, and then rub your hands together for 20 seconds, and look in the bottom of the sink, you'll start to see all this dirt come off your hands. So we have to learn how to wash our hands properly. We have to learn how to wear our masks properly, right? Miami Beach declared a state of emergency. All the young people from spring break from colleges converged down there. And I'm saying, for those of you who are parents, they're young adults, and just because they're in college don't mean they have all the sense God gave them. Are you talking to them and saying, if you must travel, make sure you wear your mask? There were beaches filled of people. just not wearing their mask. And like Zen says, there's variants, but we knew these variants were coming because we took too long to do anything about it in too many parts of the world, including the United States. It was able to mutate. And so now that the mutation has happened, here we are. We have a ton of work to do. Talk to your young people. Tell them just because you may be vaccinated or you're not vaccinated, please wear your mask, social distance. Even though you're on a beach and it's wide open, you're still piled up on top of one another. You're breathing in each other's air. And if you're not wearing a mask and you're sneezing and coughing and everything else and you're passing your stuff around, man, can we just get it together, please? Everybody wants to go back to normal, some level of normalcy in this country. That is not going to happen if we don't get it together and really pay attention and take care of everyone around us and not just look out for ourselves. And taking care of everyone around us means that we have to think beyond ourselves and what we want and need. Right? That's how humankind works. And so when we ignore the third world countries and when we ignore the poorer places and then we travel to them because, we got money to travel to these places, and then we pick up the variants and the diseases and we come back to where we live, we don't see how it's all super connected. And so there has to be a better way. I'm going to continue highlighting what's happening with the violence in the city. I'm going to continue talking about where you can get your vaccines. I'm going to talk about, where we are a year later with COVID. We're going to keep talking about education. We're going to keep talking about the things that are working instead of just what's not working. And we'll get it going, y'all. This is what we're here for. This is what the source is for. Pray for Mark Lamont Hill. His store was vandalized again. Uncle Bobby's this morning. I went by there and saw that had happened again. And it's like the 5th, 6th time, if not more, that has taken place where someone threw a rock inside the store. Look out for one another, y'all. Peace and justice. Coming up next is Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.